Pat McAfee Show.
There'll be no rules for our guests, for us, for the things we can talk about.
Speaking his mind.
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions or my thoughts or anything like that.
While being relatable.
I haven't had that manufactured fake-ass celebrity that a lot of people have whenever they go on those big networks. I've had a chance to really build my crew, build my following, build my audience.
And ridiculous.
What am I supposed to do? So I'm supposed to look at something that I can definitely afford and say, nah. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
The Pat McAfee Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Good day, beautiful people. It is Tuesday, October 6th, 2020, and it is Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. Let's go. Big day, big day. Aaron Rodgers will be joining us in the third hour, the 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time hour, to chat about his magnificent performance last night against the Atlanta Falcons at home in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now, Aaron did have 6 incompletions last night, so we'll talk to him about each and every single one of those. Yep. He went 20 of 20 when targeting a tight end and a running back, which is pretty obvious whenever you found out that the Falcons were losing both of their safeties for last night's game. You thought the middle of the field could get pounded, but what I did not expect was the dominant performance by the Green Bay Packers last night on Monday Night Football. Just from beginning to end, there seemed to be no panic. There seemed to be no thought that all of our weapons are out. There seemed to be no consideration that Aaron Rodgers was going to go ahead and dominate the Atlanta Falcons. It just seemed like such a casual evening for the Green Bay Packers. And I think if you're a Packers fan, which there are a few in this room, especially now that there's Aaron Rodgers Tuesday and we're learning about the trigger man for the Green Bay Packers as being just a legend of a human as well as a great quarterback, there was a thought that last night was potentially the game that the Packers could give up there. And I think Packers fans would have understood it. Out all of your weapons, playing against a wounded animal in the Atlanta Falcons. Now, instead, Aaron Rodgers looked better than he's ever looked. Matt LaFleur is calling beautiful games. Aaron Jones is in consideration and on course to potentially have the greatest running back season that a running back has had in a long, long time, both receiving and running. Jamal Williams got loose, and a guy named Big Bob Tunyon took over the evening with 3 touchdowns, fresh out of Indiana State. Go Sycamores. Good for him. The defense also played great. There was a couple balls by Matt Ryan that made me question why Matt Ryan is potentially still considered Matt Ryan. I think he's a very different football player. And this might be because the Atlanta Falcons have just got, kicked in the taint so often here in the past. But for me, there was a couple balls Matt Ryan missed. There was a couple passes Matt Ryan missed where if it was another big-name quarterback, like I think Matt Ryan's been around a long time now this point. Matt Ryan's been an MVP. If it was another big-name quarterback that has been around for a long time that was doing the things that Matt Ryan did last night, a lot of people would say, why is this guy still in the NFL? And I'm not saying that about Matt Ryan. I don't think Matt Ryan deserves that. But boy, it did not look like the Matt Ryan legacy is one of, hey, this guy is great for a long time. I had a lot of questions about Matt Ryan, but now all the questions lie on Dan Quinn's desk, especially after news yesterday that Billy O'Brien was fired from the Houston Texans organization. He's fired as the GM. He's fired as the head coach. He's fired as the play caller. They have to fill a lot of roles there. They say Romeo Cornell will be the interim head coach. But now Dan Quinn is the guy that everybody's looking at as, does this sumbitch still deserve his job? I don't know what they're going to do down there with Arthur Blank and the Falcons, but I do know the Houston Texans fans are pumped up about Bill O'Brien being gone. That's a lot of roles that have to get filled. We'll be excited to see what they did there. And in the other Monday Night Football game last night, the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champs played host to a team that had to travel there on the same exact day as the game. Played host to a team that was out their starting quarterback who's playing better than he's ever played in his entire career because he was the only one on the team that got COVID. They were playing against a team that was out their number 1 running back in Sony Michel. They were playing against a team that had 0 chance of winning that game last night, but I think everybody would come to the conclusion that last night was a hell of a look for the New England Patriots. An incredible turnaround in one day flying out there. They were up at 7 a.m. yesterday morning. They had to fly to Kansas City. They got an hour and a half downtime in a hotel. Then they're right back into warming up. You're an earlier game than an actual Monday Night Football game here at 7:05, and then we're getting into it. And I think the fourth quarter, there became some mental errors. Fourth quarter, there was some missed assignments. assignments. Fourth quarter, that game really got away from them to the Kansas City Chiefs. But all the way up until that point, that Patriots team did what everybody assumed they would do, which is the smartest brand of football, because Bill Belichick is just that guy. I don't know if any other team coached by any other person could have done what the Patriots did yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know the Chargers have given the Chiefs problem in the past, and I know that they've had success, but what New England has done to Patrick Mahomes throughout his entire career, there's only 3 times that he hasn't thrown a touchdown in the first half or scored a touchdown in the first half. It was against the Patriots last night, it was against the Patriots a couple years ago, and it was against the Patriots a couple years before that. It's just the Patriots do something to Patrick Mahomes, and what it is they play a bend but don't break defense. Last night it felt like Patrick Mahomes could move the ball however he wanted early, and then once he got down to the red zone, it was lock down, clamp down, how you doing, keep it moving. They settled for a couple field goals early. Brian Hoyer was out there wheeling and dealing until he did a Brian Hoyer and threw a beautiful ball to the other team. Then we got a chance to see who New England thought was going to be their starting quarterback in Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham looked pretty good at football, to be completely candid, but at that point, the team had already been up for about 24 hours. They had already traveled. They had already done everything, and it just felt like they lost their gas. But Patrick Mahomes is flopping now on the sideline, picking up 15-yard penalties.
Jesus.
Smart, super smart football. A lot of people are going to hate him for it. Hey, a lot of people are going to hate Patrick Mahomes for what happened last night on that sideline. A lot of people. Just like a lot of people started getting mad at LeBron whenever he started doing things like this.
Oh, come on.
But if you think about this as a super football IQ, as a basketball IQ for LeBron, you're just helping your team win, baby. And that's all you're being asked to do. The fact that the guy grabbed him by the collar when he was already out of bounds, probably not the smartest move. It's Patrick Mahomes, too. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know who you're potentially grabbing. And then Patrick Mahomes taking advantage of it. I mean, I don't say that I love that he did it, but hey, it's smart football. Helped that his team gets the dub last night. But they did not look anywhere near their best. They did not look how they looked against the Baltimore Ravens. There was a couple missed balls from Patrick Mahomes, too, whenever he was trying to find Kelsey and things like that. So let's assume he has another bounce-back week. They're still trying to figure it out, but they're the champions for a reason, still on top of the hill until anybody else crowns them. But it was a good night for the Patriots, I think, whenever you think, wow, that team will be able to contend with anybody. They went up to Seattle, and it came down to a 4th and goal or whatever with 2 yards out at the end of the game to win it against Seattle, who's one of the NFC favorites. Now they're going against the Super Bowl champions, and if you have Cam Newton out there last night, you have to wonder, do the Patriots get a win on Monday Night Football with Cam Newton? Now, it's not Monday Night Football if Cam Newton's there, because Cam Newton, obviously the only one with COVID, but Cam Newton on that Patriots team, anytime you're watching that game last night, you had to think, if Cam Newton was here, what would be happening? If Cam Newton was here, what would be happening? And that's no detriment to Wild Hoy, Brian Hoyer, or Jared Stidham, who now has 3 picks, I think, in like 15 passes.
Yeah, 2 pick sixes, too.
Yes.
Pretty impressive.
I mean, it's tough. That one off his hands with Julian Edelman. He got kind of unlucky there.
Good
but
scoring.
It's one of those things where if Cam Newton was playing, and we'll probably see that game, by the way. That game will probably happen at some point. I assume the Chiefs and Patriots are going to play. Will the Patriots be able to make it to where the Chiefs are going to go? I don't know. We will see. But with Cam Newton on that field last night, I assume they get a dub or keep that thing very, very close until the end. And we learned a lot last night. Today, we will talk to Philip Rivers in the 1 o'clock hour Eastern Daylight Time. We will also talk to the Yahoo Sport, Charles Robinson. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers joins us in the 2 o'clock hour alongside AJ Hawk here on this Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. At Tone Diggs, you were scared to make a bet on any of the teams last night.
Yep.
But what did you learn, you think, from a gambling standpoint about this Packers team, about that Falcons team, about the Patriots? What do you think?
Gambling-wise, I learned that the Falcons are absolutely dead, and we'll be betting against them until Dan Quinn is fired, because they didn't give a single fuck about playing for that guy last night at all.
Very interesting that you say that, and I noticed it early. So Aaron Rodgers has a long completion down the sideline, and I think he fell down, or maybe he was in a pile, and they show him standing up. Long completion. It was like 30 yards or something like that. He stands up, and there's an Atlanta Falcon D lineman next to him laughing with him. And I'm like, well, all right. If I'm a Falcons fan, I'm not exactly thrilled that our D lineman's laughing. No, Aaron Rodgers is funny, charming,
great
charismatic guy. But you just give up a 30-some-yard thing early, and you're laughing with the quarterback. Like, okay, that'll make you question it. Then Aaron Jones runs a guy over, I think, and then the Falcons guy helps Aaron Jones up, and they have like a moment of laughing. I'm like, oh, this Falcons team, seems to be checked out. Now, they obviously aren't not trying, because every player is trying to make as much money as possible by playing the football good. That is not something anybody would do. But it didn't feel as if they were invested as much as you would have hoped for a team that was wounded going into a Monday night game against a team that was also wounded and wasn't their best. It just didn't feel like the Falcons were at any point last night willing to be like, yeah, we're upset that we're losing. It was like, yeah, this is probably what we were expecting at this point.
Well, then I had a couple issues with him where it was they had a 20 play drive, and they went for it twice, I believe, on fourth down and got it. And then when you get inside the 5-yard line and it's like 4th and 3 on the goal line, you decide to kick a field goal there instead of maybe potentially going for a touchdown when you know your defense is not going to stop anybody. And then you call 2 timeouts with like 48 seconds left, and maybe
you help out the Packers. Yeah, that timeout after first down was very interesting by the old Dan Quinn there. And I like it. Hey, no second wasted, okay? They're not going to run the clock out here. Yeah, we might be down 3 scores, and somehow, some way, we got Mason Crosby to miss an extra point. It wasn't the shirt, by the way, but we're still in this thing, and maybe we'll be able to steal a score here at the end of half, because the first 2 quarters have told us that is probably likely, as we could steal a score here. And that decision, as soon as it happened, I think I texted the group. I was like, timeout after first down. And that is exactly what I was referring to last week about defensive coaches making decisions in the end of half or situational decisions, because they normally just have to react to the offense making a decision. And obviously that helped out Aaron going down and scoring. At Boston Connor, the Patriots lose by a team that covers the spread, by the way. So what Vegas thought they should lose by, they lost by more. But in your eyes, good showing by the Patriots.
Good showing. I know Vegas didn't think it was going to be a 13-10 game going into the 4th. And I don't know if Vegas did know this, but the referees, I mean, after a fumble / pick 6, I mean, give me a break. That was real.
That was very interesting, because the commentators were talking about it being an incomplete pass or something like that, but the ball never hit the ground. Nope. I thought Correnti called a forward progress stopped on the field. I thought that, because he was running and pointing like this, and he was indicating basically that you can't challenge. And I think that was even something that Belichick was even more mad about. He was screaming, that's bullshit, which, by the way, he was double masked last night, so the message got sent. I still think that original mask he had on, he had it folded up like he has in weeks past, but he had the sleeve there to cover that up, which I respect both ways. But I think that's what he was so upset about. So I think the commentators got it wrong, as opposed to, which, by the way, we can debate forward progress calls all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this happens on a very regular basis, where guys will be held up, which is a technique that is taught, like hold the guy up so somebody else can come in and get the ball out. And if a ref doesn't blow a whistle, but then afterwards says, well, I think what I thought was this, which is what happened in that situation. No whistle came. It came afterwards that it was down. So it was very, very touchy call. But them saying that they ruled it incompletion, I think that even spun even more into the controversy. And it was like, whoa. Is that what it was or not? Because I thought it was forward progress from the beginning. I didn't like the call, but I thought that's what Correnti called, and we weren't getting that message at all.
I mean, refs don't win or lose games. I mean, not going to say that. Stidham threw a pick 6, a Hoyer. We never really had a chance, but we have a lot of fight, and that defense looks damn good.
The defense looks really good because they got the big brain on them.
Yeah.
Right? It was. We talked to Lombardi yesterday on Hammer Don, and Michael Lombardi, former general manager and also consultant with the Patriots, and his son coaches for the Patriots. So he's been around good football for a long time. He talked about how the only way you're going to be able to do this with the Chiefs is you just got to be a bend but don't break. Like he'll give them all the yards, but if they get field goals in the red zone, that defense, that is a massive win. Then you just got to hope that the offense can keep up or whatever. And then he even said Hoyer in the red zone becomes a completely different person. He starts thinking he's Russell Wilson and all this stuff. And he, by the way, fumble in the red zone, and bend but don't break defense. I mean, we knew the scouting report of what Belichick was going to do going into that game strictly because of Michael Lombardi yesterday on Hammered Down. But that's like the thing. Whenever everybody thought the Patriots were going to die this year before they had Cam Newton or whatever, for me, as somebody who has just watched great players become very average playing against Bill Belichick, you can never rule out that big-ass brain on that guy winning them multiple games. And last night, while we were watching it, and it was working out exactly how Lombardi was basically saying, like, they're going to let him get the yards, whatever. So your punter basically null and void for the Patriots. He had a great game last night, but it didn't matter because they were going to fucking run the ball all the way up to the red zone anyways. He is a massive leg. I'm a big fan of his. And when you're a punter and you're not told that your defense is going with a bend but don't break attitude, it really fucking pisses you off whenever you get them down inside two. It's like, let's go get them. They're like, no, we're letting them. We can't stop them.
Take it easy, Jake.
Hey, Jake, hey, Pat, we cannot stop them. So you could probably just catch a snap and take a fucking knee, by the way. It actually might expedite the whole process of us getting to where we're actually going to play defense. But that is what Belichick does. Belichick figures out a way to win games that he shouldn't be. Last night, they should not have been in that game, and they were in it. It made no sense that they were in that game, and they were in it. And that's because Bill's smarter than everybody.
And you mentioned...
And not that Andy Reid isn't, by the way. I'm not saying that Andy Reid is. I think Andy Reid's one of those guys, too. He's been great for so long. But you saw the Belichick factor. And, yes, last night, whatever you're watching, the Chiefs struggle against a team that had to fly out their day of without their starting quarterback. So that means their entire game plan, they got one day to change it without it. What Belichick pulled off last night, you just got to be like, damn, yeah, they do that. Nobody else can.
Well, you mentioned the Hoyer pick and fumble, but how about at the end of the first half? He's a 40-year-old rookie, and the guy doesn't even know that we have no timeouts, and you can't take a sack before the goddamn half so you can get a field goal. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's the red zone. That's exactly what we're referring to.
Ridiculous. Red zone Hoyer is Jimmy Clausen.
I saw last Jimmy Clausen did not deserve that.
Well, I don't think Brian Hoyer did, but here we are.
But in the red zone last night, whenever he started working, all I thought of was him playing quarterback for the Colts last year against the Steelers. And he threw like 3 seam balls right to Minkah Fitzpatrick, it felt like. Just in the red zone. Here we go. I can thread the needle better than any human in the NFL. There's no defense that can stop me.
He did once.
I do like that.
I love that confidence.
I like that Hoyer has that confidence, but it seems to be a real Achilles heel. So much so that Lombardi was like, I don't trust Hoyer in the red zone. And I'm like, really? Like that? He's like, he thinks he's a different person. He showed up last night. But you got to feel good if you're a Patriot.
Feel good. I mean, and our rushing attack still looks amazing. Damian Harris is good. I just wish we would have used it when we did get down to the red zone so the wild Hoyer didn't, go ballistic and screw up the whole game.
Damian Harris scores last night. We all had to get that at plus 430, by the way. I bet rather large on that because of Connor's confidence in this guy, and it just did not pay off at all. It was the only L I took last night was...
Really?
Yeah. I got the Chiefs at minus 6.5, so there wasn't even a moment in that game where I was like, this is problematic. I felt pretty good about it.
Little did I know we were going to use him to get down to the red zone and then just say, no, let's let the wild Hoyer put us in there, which obviously was never going to happen.
Was Hoyer checking out of plays, I wonder? That's awesome if he was. That is awesome if he was. Josh McDaniels.
Get him out.
Get him out. Shaking off calls. No.
Stidham was.
No, it's curveball. No. No. I'm throwing a fucking fastball. If he was doing that to Josh McDaniels, that's awesome. At Ty Schmidt, Aaron Rodgers plays better than he's played in the first 3 games somehow last night with players that we've never heard of. Big Bob Tunyon, I guess Dan Orlovsky said keep an eye on him yesterday to us, which was the first time I'd heard of the guy, Indiana State legend. He has a massive night. Aaron Jones has a massive night. Jamal Williams has a massive night. The only person to miss was Sternberger. I guess we didn't really get any much of him. And Valdez Scantling, you said he's hit or miss. He missed, went back to him. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is making stars out of people we've never heard of on primetime games, playing better football than he's ever played before. And you called this immediately after your Mad Mel Psycho rant on draft night that this seems like this is going to be a burn it down run on like Aaron Rodgers, and he is doing just that.
Yeah, exactly. And yesterday I said one of maybe the dumbest things I've ever said, and I was actually kind of worried about this game. Thought the Falcons might score, put up a 50-burger against the Packers. What I wasn't accounting for is that they absolutely fucking stink. And when Rodgers plays like this, I mean, the Packers are a Super Bowl contender. They can play with and beat anybody. So it's hard not to feel just great moving forward. They got a big test going to Tampa Bay after the bye, but I think that will speak volumes to, I think they can win the whole damn thing. I really do.
Hey, was that a little optimism out of Tyler?
Yeah,
a lot of Did you see the smile and the excitement? All of Green Bay Packers faithful are jacked up after the first quarter of the season. Now a bye heading into Tampa. So we got the Tampa Bay Q Gronkaneers taking on the Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers in 2 weeks. That's going to be an awesome game because Tampa's going to have it figured out by then too. Their team's getting better and better each week. Here we go.
And the Packers have about 4 guys that should be healthy coming off that bye, so they should be closer to full strength. I'm very optimistic and very excited for quarter 2 of the season.
At Viva Lazito sitting on the couch with a Dawn necklace on.
How we doing?
How's the poll today? How are you doing,
The
bub?
poll's last minute, so I don't think you even know it. Have I told you yet?
Nope.
Oh, should NFL teams forfeit if they have a COVID outbreak in the locker room?
Oh, so you're saying should the team like the Titans have a forfeit because the Pittsburgh Steelers had to take an early bye week here?
It's
in a
horrible.
couple. Yeah, it's not good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But hey, it's 2020. It's going to take all of us. That's the NFL's motto. It's going to take all of us. Okay,
it's a team game.
Oh yeah,
it's going to take all of us. Has anybody answered that poll?
Yes, they have. So yep, 40.5%. Nope, 59.5%. So.
I'm happy to hear that with 1,000 votes in, a little bit of reason is winning here. Now, I will say yesterday's poll was completely wrong. Completely wrong. And let's bring up the sidebar now that we're here. Congrats. Yes. Number one topic there that we were going to talk about, but we couldn't help but talk about the Monday Night Football games last night, both on CBS and ESPN. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Monday Night Football. Pretty cool. Pretty cool to hear.
Yeah.
Good.
Steve Levy, Louis Riddick, Greasy, still finding their groove. Loved the double Monday Night Football games last night. Also, big shout out to Steve Levy for the shout out to this particular show.
Stevie.
You're the man. Appreciate the hell out of you. I liked last night's football matchups, obviously, but that wasn't the biggest news of the day yesterday. The biggest news of the day yesterday came at like 5 o'clock, 5:15. I forget the exact time, and it came from a guy named Bob McClain.
Oh, yeah.
Is that his name?
Yes.
Big Bob.
Bob McClain,
Superhero?
who covers the Houston Texans for the Chronicle, which I believe is down in Houston. I'm not 100% sure if that's right, but I'm just trying my best
Sounds
here.
right.
He broke the news that Cal McNair, owner of the Houston Texans, has decided to part ways with Billy O'Brien, who was the general manager, the head coach, and the play caller. So whenever they decide to let him go, right there at 5-something, and Adam Schefter tweeted that the Texans have fired head coach and GM Bill O'Brien per Maziano and me. That was very interesting because there was a little bit of a battle of who broke the news.
Yeah.
And I do think Bob McClain had it a little bit earlier, but he was dialed into that building. Shefty probably had it too, was just trying to confirm it with his sources. Who knows how it goes, but you get the insider game. Billy O'Brien fired after an 0-4 start, which saw him take on the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Vikings. 0-4, he's out. I think his winning percentage with the Texans like 50-something and 40-something. So he's won the division a few times. He's gotten Houston to the playoffs. Last year they made a run in the playoffs, beating the Buffalo Bills and losing to the Chiefs ultimately. It was very interesting because if you're outside of the Houston Texans building, like ours, like we are, it's hard not to be like, well, that guy seems like an idiot. When he traded away DeAndre Hopkins for a 4th-round pick and David Johnson was like, well, that doesn't seem like the right move. Then some rumors started popping out about why Billy O'Brien wanted to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins and all that. Then last year they gave up a 20-something point lead against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs in like the day after he named himself general manager. It was like there's just a lot of lack of self-awareness moments that have happened with Billy O'Brien over the years. But I don't think if you look at strictly his record, you would have expected a 0-4 start, a GM, a head coach, and a play caller get fired in the middle of the season. So obviously behind closed doors, there's a lot of shit popping off as well. I put out a little feeler to the internet asking Houston Texans fans how they feel about this. And I'll tell you what, not a one negative response. Nope, not a one. The only negative responses came from Colts fans, Titans fans, and Jaguars fans. They're like, hate it, hate it, hate it, because they wanted Billy O'Brien to be down there. Now, that doesn't make all the sense in the world because Billy O'Brien has won the division a lot as the head coach of the Houston Texans, which used to be the Indianapolis Colts division. I actually was a part of watching that transition process from us dominating every year to potentially the Texans going, then us getting, and then the Texans going. It was a very interesting dynamic, but now it turns to Romeo Cornell as the interim head coach. Romeo Cornell, I believe, was a head coach before for the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. He's also been around the NFL for a long, long time. And there were some players, I guess, that reached out to Diana Rossini or some other insiders that said it's just a sense of relief. It's almost not that they didn't like Bill O'Brien, but it's like there's a lot of questions on what the future was. Now they have a definitive answer, and now they can move forward knowing that it's not going to be Bill O'Brien. But will Romeo Cornell get that head coaching gig? If he does well here for the next, 12 weeks, they do well. That team rallies around him. Is he the head coach of the Houston Texans? Or will they do what the Washington football team did last year, what the Cleveland Browns did last year, which is see a new interim head coach, have a little bit of success, team sense to rally around him. It was Greg Williams, and then it was, what's-his-face over in Washington, and then just kick him out the door because we got our own ideas. You got to hire a GM first before you even hire a head coach. I mean, they got a lot of work to do in the middle of the season, but it feels like their fans and their players seem to be pumped about this decision.
You mentioned it. What a kiss of death on his way out, too. Trading the best receiver, losing the first, 2 draft picks that they have, and when they easily could go like 3-13 this year after this.
That organization is in a bad spot. All right, we got to get to a break. We got the Yahoo Sport, Charles Robinson, joining us on the other side.
Let's go.
He's down in Houston. He probably has some insight because it's not just the record, obviously. Is it everything that we think? Like, hey, the lack of self-awareness, feels like he's making bad decisions for the entire organization. But you know what they say, when you make your bed, you go to sleep in it. The Houston Texans bed that Bill O'Brien made is a shitty put together bed.
It smells bad.
It is a very shitty put together
It's like,
bed.
hey.
They just paid a quarterback a massive amount of money. Okay, so whoever's next, this is your quarterback. Okay, not that Deshaun Watson wouldn't be, but I'm just saying that's not normally how it goes with GMs and head coaches. They don't have a first round pick to build around.
Deshaun Watson is in a coffin.
They got nothing. But they have a great fan base. I mean, that stadium is
It's bumping.
26 minutes into the show here on this Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, October 6th. We got Charles Robinson, not the WWE ref, the Yahoo Sport on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
I think they'll move the ball. The problem with Brian Hoyer is when the ball gets like what happened with Indianapolis, when it gets down to the red zone, he tries to become somebody he's not, and they got to do a really good job of protecting that he doesn't turn that ball over.
I don't like the spreads here, Mike, but Monday nights we like to make picks on the games.
Yeah, that's what we do
That's
around
what we
here.
do at this table.
That's what we do at this table.
So I'm doing a 6-point teaser at -130. So I'm getting the Chiefs at -4.5 and the Packers as a pick 'em.
Right.
That's smart. That's smart.
That's betting, baby.
Hey, that's gambling. That's teasing, baby. I got introduced to the tease this weekend. I fucking love that thing. I love it. I had a really good
If you're
one.
good at picking them straight up, don't do that. Just stay with it.
Oh, listen, I'm just adding shots to my bag, boss. I'm just adding shots to my bag because not everything's going to look great, you know? Not everything's going to look delicious. Sometimes you need to tease a little bit, get a little bit more on the back end from 2 shots and say, hey, you 2 are going to hit for sure. And I agree with Gumpy with what he just said. That's my official bet on this show of tonight is what Gumpy
You're doing
just
that
said.
tease as well?
I'm doing what Gumpy just said right there.
Oh boy, here we go. He golfs, apparently. I told him to. Oh!
Oh my goodness. John Daly just made a hole-in-one and I got it on video.
Yes!
You know what the best part about it? 11 of them mothers.
This is the Pat McAfee Show on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here, Aaron Rodgers, Tuesday, October 6th. We are not joined by Aaron Rodgers, but we are joined by the Yahoo Sport. I believe he lives down in the H-town of Houston, where there seems to be some change on the horizon and on the present. Ladies and gentlemen, not the WWE ref, Charles Robinson.
Yeah,
Charlie! Hey, boy, Charles, how you doing, pal?
I'm hanging in. It's, I've been down here, and the Bill O'Brien regime has been like Fidel Castro in Cuba.
Whoa. That hit close to me.
Jesus. So let's expound on that a little bit.
In Cuba?
Some franchises are difficult as a reporter to cover.
Yeah.
Like
Cuba.
Some franchises are
also tough to cover.
Cuba, tough to cover as well.
There tends to be a wall around guys who leave the Patriots confines tend to bring a lot of that lockout mentality with them. And Bill, I'm not saying anything negative about Bill O'Brien as a guy. I'm just saying as a reporter, not always the easiest thing on earth to cover that franchise. So living here, I often dreamt of having the Dallas Cowboys in my backyard and not the Houston Texans.
Quite a shot at the Texans organization there and the city of Houston and everything like that. And when you were younger, I assume the Oilers were potentially still around, so that's a little bit of a shot at a previous organization as well, which I respect you doing. And you said it wasn't a shot at Bill O'Brien, but you compared him to Fidel Castro. I mean, I don't know if that is a compliment, but let's expound on that a little bit more. Let's talk about that. Because if you look from the outside in, obviously, it seems as if he lacks self-awareness, right? Immediately upon losing a game he shouldn't lose, he names himself general manager afterwards. And then he trades away one of the best wide receivers in the football, no matter who you ask, top three, and gets a fourth-round pick in return in David Johnson. And all this shit. He names himself play caller, head coach, GM. Nobody really understood outside of Houston if all this was just like, oh, this guy lacks self-awareness to the 10th degree. His record is a winning record overall. And he has taken the Texans to the playoffs, won the division down there that was previously dominated by the Indianapolis Colts. Is it everything that we think from a self-awareness standpoint and more you think that went through Cal McNair's mind, or what was it exactly?
I think, Bill probably got himself into the most trouble when Brian Gaine, the previous general manager, went out the door. The reasoning behind that move was, and that was supposed to be Bill's guy. I mean, Rick Smith, prior to Brian Gaine, there was a power struggle between Bill O'Brien and Rick Smith for years and years. That just went on and on. And when Rick Smith went out the door, it's like, okay, Bill O'Brien wins the power struggle. Now Brian Gaine's coming back from Buffalo. That's his guy. He's got the table set the way he wants it. Then that doesn't work. And the reasoning was when Brian Gaine went out the door, it was like, hey, look, we're constructed up to a certain point, but we've got to be better. Like we can get to the playoffs now, but we need to take that next step. And it's not happening under Brian. So another power struggle develops between Bill O'Brien and his general manager. This guy, Jack Easterby, comes in from the New England Patriots. And I don't really know how to describe Jack Easterby other than like, he's like the Wizard of Oz of like morality. And like, that's
the Wizard of Oz of morality.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like not a lot of people understand entirely what Jack Easterby does or what he's about or what he adds to a franchise.
Big thumbs up guy.
And yet he seems to have power and sway and be behind this curtain controlling some things. Well, here he is now in Houston, impacting this process with Bill O'Brien. But I think what got Bill in trouble was this idea that you're going to take this next step. And really the steps that were taken was Bill O'Brien installs himself as general manager when Nick Caserio doesn't work out. Nick Caserio was never going to work out. It was a flaming wreck when they tried to engage in that process, and Jack Easterby was right in the middle of that. Then after installing himself as head coach, he says, hey, the OC, he's going to have play calling duties. It's just weird. Like he announces it like toward the end of the preseason, and it felt like the first three games were a murderer's row, and you're like, is this a setup? Like, is he setting this guy up? And if they get off to a difficult start, is Bill suddenly going to swoop in and go, I'm going to take play calling duties now? It's exactly what happened. And then beyond that, when you started to get into the layers of what was going on, he's being a contract negotiator. Like he was involved in like contract talks with agents on top of being the head coach, on top of being a play caller, on top of being the general manager. he's doing 50 million things, and none of them are really working out well, and you get off to a poor start. So I think at that point, Bill kind of put himself at center stage, and there was really no one around him to take the blame at this stage. And I know a lot of people are going to get caught up in Jack Easterby. I know there's a lot of questions about who's this guy, why did he remain, and did he frag Bill in the process? You're getting too into the weeds on it. Like, the bottom line was Bill took on way too much. He tried to be Bill Belichick. And I'm telling you, at some point, people in the NFL are going to learn, whether it's coaches, whether it's owners, they're going to figure out that you cannot replicate the Bill Belichick experience. He's the only guy who can be a head coach and a general manager and somehow manage to pull both of those off well. Other people can't do it, and every time it happens, it falls apart like this.
It's so interesting. He's also lead counsel. I didn't know he was also lead counsel. He's lead counsel, general manager, head coach, and play caller. And if your team stinks, I mean, there's nobody else to really blame there, because normally you do set yourself up to blame other people. You hear the coaches say, we'll coach whoever we have or whatever. That's them saying the general manager didn't put the team together. The general manager can always say, well, we got the talent. They always say, like, we have a talented roster. That's them saying, well, the coaches can't figure it out. And then you have a head coach, much like what Billy O'Brien did to his offense coordinator. It's like, well, our play caller isn't doing the right thing. He put himself in a position leveraging against himself that he had no fingers to point to anybody else. And it felt like he was a big finger pointing guy. And then whenever you find out that you're the guy that all the fingers are pointing to, all the roads lead to you, that is a pretty tough position to be in if you're old Billy O'Brien. So what's next? Romeo Cornell is now the interim head coach, a man who's beloved by almost everybody that's ever worked alongside Romeo Cornell. His former head coaching job, I believe, was the Chiefs, the last one or whatever, but now he takes over in Houston. I assume the team will rally behind him a little bit here, and I think maybe they'll have a better performance than they've had in the past. Now you need a GM. Who's going to be the play caller, the original offense coordinator, I guess, who had to go against Murderers Row?
Yeah, Tim Kelly. Yeah, he's going to be the play caller. And so, you know, as you said, I think you'll probably see the schedule gets a little bit easier here. It gets a little softer. The start was really rough. So you could see, I think, some people rally behind Romeo Cornell. But, you know, the names that are going to pop up, you're going to get, you know, look, Matt Eberflus is killing it right now in Indianapolis as the defensive coordinator there. He's going to be in every head coaching conversation next offseason. You know, Eric Bieniemy is another guy, obviously out of Kansas City, that is going to be a name that's going to be out there. What I think is going to be really interesting is the annual Josh McDaniels people inserting him.
So is that because the Jack Easterby thumbs up morale guy is down there and he has a good relationship with Josh McDaniels, everybody assumes? Josh McDaniels was the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts until he turned the plane back around on the same day that the Colts had a press conference announced for him, a introduction to all the corporate sponsors meeting. His whole day was already planned. Plane in the sky. Robert Kraft says, why don't you go ahead and turn that thing right back around, okay? You can coach for us for another 10 years and then just take over here. Unless we give it to Steve Belichick, then he can hop on a plane and go somewhere else. Does McDaniels want to take that Texans job, you think? And why is everybody automatically assuming that? Because of Easterby.
Easterby, because of the Easterby connection, and, you know, there's been this insinuation that Josh and Easterby are close to each other. Again, I so little is really known well about Easterby that I question any idea I hear about, oh, well, he's really close to this guy or that guy supposedly is really close to Bill O'Brien. And yet Bill O'Brien goes down and Jack Easterby remains. So I would question how much you can believe that's put out there. I will say this about Josh. Every year, you know, his name is pushed out there, even after the debacle in Indianapolis. Which, hey, at least he hired Matt Eberflus before he ended up turning that job upside down. But, you know, Josh's people know that at some point, and I think it's got to happen pretty soon, that Josh needs, you know, he's got to get his next head coaching gig. I think seeing how the franchise may be rejuvenated with Cam Newton there, it's pretty clear. I don't think Bill Belichick's going anywhere. And so the first thing that you do if you're a guy like Josh McDaniels is you go, well, is the quarterback, you know, answered? Is the quarterback situation bad? Is it good? Are you in that velvet rut where you kind of have like a middle-of-the-road quarterback and you're not bad enough to get to the top of a good quarterback draft? No, they have Deshaun Watson. So for all intents and purposes, if he believes in Deshaun Watson, at least that's resolved. They have Laramie Tunsil, who they paid a ton of money to, so you at least have your left tackle, you have your quarterback. but there's still a lot to do with the Texans. I think a lot of what Josh McDaniels' involvement is with a lot of jobs is that he has representation that makes sure he is very well represented in the press, involved in a lot of these jobs. Cleveland was a good example. All I heard was
that's what John Gruden did, by the way. John Gruden, when he was working at ESPN, his name would get floated out for a head coaching gig, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, he'd get a raise for Monday Night Football. It was like, this guy is a genius. And then he finally goes to the Raiders. The thought that Bieniemy isn't the guy is very interesting because, and it's also interesting because you have to sign, if you sign the coach before the GM, then it's the coach pulling the trigger on who the GM is. Then ultimately, if that goes bad, who fires who? So I would assume that you have to look at the GM first if you're Cal McNair. In the GM role, a lot of people are saying, Louis Riddick, get that guy out of the booth into there. Is there any conversation about who the GM would be, or is that something that we would not hear about because it's not as glorified as a position?
Not yet, I don't think. I think instantaneously people start to talk about the coach because the coach is gone and they forget that this is a dual role guy. So now you're speaking out of logic. Logically, every single NFL franchise should hire your GM first and let that person lay down the foundation for the next head coach. And frankly, you need to go get a general manager who is 100% on board with Deshaun Watson being his quarterback for the next 10 years because, as you said, you already gave the guy the bag. He's got the bag. He's got 6 bags. It's trash day every day at his house. He's always got a bag in front of him. So, I mean, you better be prepared for Deshaun Watson to be your guy if you're the GM. And then go out and get the coach who is prepared to have Deshaun Watson run his system, be his guy. The question now, again, it gets back to Easterby. Easterby's still there. And so what's interesting is, I call these people who are involved with the Patriots, people who know about his departure from the Patriots, which was kind of ugly because it felt like he took some shots at Robert Kraft on the way out over Robert Kraft's misdemeanor prostitution charge. And he's not clean. I will tell you that in terms of like mixing it up with the Kraft family. I don't think they think highly of him at this stage. And so is he going to be involved? Like he can't. If they name him general manager, and I will say this for Cal McNair, he's an unknown commodity. Like I could have probably told you what Bob McNair would do. I don't know what his son, is going to do with this. But I'll say this about Easterby. I don't know that he should be a general manager because a general manager has to be a talent evaluator. And if you look at his resume, where's the talent evaluation skill? Now, that hasn't stopped some other people from being general managers in the NFL, but it doesn't always work out. So I'm with you. I go with the logic first. Hopefully that's what gets worked out first for the Houston Texans. Right now, I think they're just trying to onboard Romeo Cornell as the head coach and figure that out first.
Chuck, the latest development in the Earl Thomas saga was that players in the Texans locker room didn't actually want to play with him, so they kind of shut that down. Is Earl Thomas going to get a job again, or do nobody want to play with him anymore?
It's hard for me to say that he won't get. I mean, it's hard for me to say he won't get a job. But again, when you go back and you look at Earl Thomas's history, and you talk to people in Seattle, you talk to people in Baltimore. It's like it went from like if you had a color-coded scale of how bad is the situation, it got pretty orange in Seattle, which is hard under Pete Carroll, who's the players coach.
Choose a lot of gum,
pretty loose guy, John Schneider. But then it went to Baltimore, and by the way, Baltimore had Steve Smith in there, not always the easiest guy to deal with. Anquan Bolden could be real hard on his coaches, okay? You had Marcus Peters in there. Like, they have figured out a way to handle sort of these mercurial personalities. Earl Thomas was just a total wreck. Like, it was beyond a wreck, and there is so much animus that remains with him. It went from orange in Seattle to, like, red, threat level red in Baltimore. And I think a lot of teams see that. I think that's what's kept the Dallas Cowboys, despite being, pretty bad at safety this year, from really entertaining that signing. It's a long season. There are going to be a lot of injuries, and at some point, maybe someone will roll the dice on this. But, there's been some desperate teams early that haven't, and that's got to be pretty troubling.
All right. Well, we appreciate your big brain from the Yahoo Sports. What are you going to say?
I do. I want to add in one thing. I got a joke I had to get off.
Oh,
come on.
Let's do it.
Listen, I got Pat Pat, I know, Pat, you kind of want to know about, whether Roger Goodell, they might, would they really forfeit games and all this COVID stuff and everything. First off, we might as well call it the Titans call with the call that happened this week with all the teams about, hey, we're serious. This is what's going on. Here's all the things that we're going to, when we onboard free agents, it's going to be a longer process. Yeah. We're going to ban gatherings. We're going to limit tryouts. We're going to have video of the inside of your facility. Oh, yeah. The next step that was not in that memo was they're going to send in NATO peacekeepers to make sure everybody's smart. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Robbins. Way to go, Chuck. Appreciate you, buddy. Not too shabby. Not too shabby.
Yeah, guy at the Comedy Store.
Hey, not bad. Charles Robinson's got good confidence, man. He is good, and he knows his stuff. A lot of chatter there. Yeah. Bill O'Brien's stuff is just a collection of things, I guess, because when you do put yourself in every position to blame, it's hard to point fingers, and that's a big point fingers position if you're getting a little bit of a hot seat over there.
I love that the Patriots just have all these secret guys who are working there all the time doing God knows what.
Jack Easterby, big thumbs up guy, you said.
Oh, yeah, huge thumbs up guy. It's funny he wants to be in the Cowboys or in Dallas. The Cowboys are 1-3. They're not much better than 0-4.
Maybe it's Chuck Robinson living in Houston that makes them a problem. Oh, no.
Talking about the access.
Let's go to Luke in St. Louis. What's going on, Luke?
Yeah, I know.
Hey, how you doing, Pat?
Hey, not too shabby, Luke. How are you?
I'm doing well, living the dream, just out here ranching, having a good old time.
Do you, whenever you say you're from St. Louis, do you follow with M-I, crooked letter, O-U-R-I, and no one do it better? Hey, Nelly had a run back there. I mean, Nelly had a run back in time.
You already know it's getting hot in here now.
Yeah.
Oh, Nelly.
Yeah, bingo, man. Country grammar for real. Luke, what do you want to talk about, bub?
So, all right, I had a theory. Patrick Mahomes won his MVP in his second year. Lamar Jackson won his MVP in his second year. Which second-year quarterback is going to win the MVP? I thought it was going to be Drew Lock, obviously, but my O-line can't defend anything. Josh Allen? Are we thinking Kyler Murray? Is he still a stooge? We don't know what we're doing.
Great question, Luke. I would have said Kyler Murray the first couple weeks because I hadn't seen Josh Allen play full games yet. Now you have to think it's Josh Allen in his third year that could potentially, a redshirt sophomore, could potentially get in there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But Kyler Murray in his second year was on pace, I think, to potentially do what Lamar or Patty Mahomes did, which was take over the league and take everybody by storm. But the last 2 weeks, he has not looked like that. No. And I do not want to completely bury the Bird Gang out there. But if Kyler Murray doesn't get back to what he was doing the first 2 weeks alongside Cliff Kingsbury, it's going to be another long season over there in the NFC West. That is going to be problematic.
I believe they have the Jets this week, so might have a bounce back game.
Big bounce.
I wonder what the spread's going to be on that. Probably 11.
I think it's 7.
Really?
Down to 6.5.
Get it? Hammer that.
Everyone's on all the sharps are on the Jets, Pat.
Where's it at? In New York or Arizona?
New York.
Oh, so they want Carolina back. Now they're going to New York and back. Ooh.
You can't bet on the Jets.
You cannot.
Yeah, that's a game you don't bet on, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like the Knicks.
Just can't bet on the Jets.
Arizona Cardinals.
Give it Cardinals.
Arizona Cardinals are -6.5 against this Jet squad. It just feels like they feel like a Falcons-like team at this point. They're just dead, And who knows if the players are obviously going to try hard, right? Players are never going to not try hard, especially the ones that don't have the bag yet, that aren't rich or whatever. But that feels like a team that doesn't love its head coach, and that is very obvious on the field whenever you see teams play. It's like, oh, this team is looking for a little bit of a change here. It feels like a little bit of a change they're looking for.
And unfortunately for Kyler Murray, Aaron freaking Rodgers is playing like Aaron freaking Rodgers again. So.
Well, hey, by the way, redshirt sophomore Josh Allen, let's not.
True.
They are undefeated as well. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, which, by the way, we don't know if he can because he is such an upstart. But if Aaron Rodgers plays anything like he's playing right now and continues to play like, it does feel like it's another MVP trophy for our guy.
Yeah, and if Josh Allen was throwing to the guys that Aaron Rodgers was throwing to, he'd probably have like 13 interceptions right now.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because the thought of Aaron Rodgers not being the number one MVP guy right now in conversation is very interesting. Because you saw early the conversation was that Russell Wilson has never received an MVP vote. Mm-hmm. And Russell Wilson is playing just like Russell Wilson always plays, which is absolutely unbelievable. But you could tell that the big push early was Russell Wilson deserves an MVP finally. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, probably does deserve consideration this year and in years past. The fact that he doesn't have one single MVP vote in his entire career is probably a little bit interesting and strange now that I think about it. Very, very strange. So the narrative was almost like this is Russ's year. If Russ plays the way Russ plays, this is his year. But I don't know how you watch what Aaron Rodgers is doing with guys you never heard of. Now, not that Russell Wilson has a bunch of weapons that he throws to either, but Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf,
Greg Olsen.
there is some weapons out there that are making some plays, but that isn't always what it is with the Seattle Seahawks the last couple of years. So you know what I mean? So I think the conversation is Russell Wilson deserves it this year, and that was before any games were played. That was kind of what was made up by a lot of people who talk about football. But man, he had 6 incompletions last night, so we got to get better. Okay, there's room to certainly improve. But he was throwing to Evan Fox last night.
Exactly.
Evan Fox lined up at wide receiver last night. And now I'm not saying Big Bob Tunyon is not going to be a starter moving forward and a big-time name, and I love that I learned about him. But think about who else was – I mean, they were on like 5th stringers, 4th stringers at this point, people that I'd never heard of. And I consider myself a rather pretty interested Packers fan at this point.
They only had 51 active guys on the roster before the game, and I believe they brought up 3 receivers from the practice squad.
So it's just,
and they all played.
I mean, what are we supposed to do here? I guess we got to go with the narrative that Russell Wilson deserves a little bit of credit in MVP, which he does.
For sure.
I would like somebody to maybe show him a little bit of respect finally, maybe in the MVP.
Absolutely.
And those who have the MVP vote, get off your fucking high horse, okay? You're not that important. Chris Collinsworth, I guess, got his MVP vote removed because he didn't return it back on time or whatever that means. He said he voted for Russell Wilson or whatever. But Aaron fucking Rodgers is just playing football right now at a different level.
Turn the tape on.
On pace.
It's a lot of fun.
Touchdowns.
Let's go to Todd in Colorado. What's going on, Todd?
0.
Hey, Pat and the boys, how you doing on this Tuesday?
Not too shabby, Todd. How are you, bub?
Hey, I'm doing great. Shout out to you and the boys. I'm hitting 1 million subscribers here on YouTube yesterday. That was awesome to see.
We appreciate that, Todd. We'll be making a video today or tomorrow laying out the rules on how you could potentially win. Apart. Sorry, you're not going to win $100,000. You could win $30,000, you could win $20,000, or you could win 51,000 individual giveouts. We're going to have awards. We're going to have out for subscribers of our YouTube. But we'll put a video out explaining how people can do that. We can't wait to do it, and we appreciate the hell out of you, Todd, over there in the Rocky Mountain State.
Hey, thank you for that, Pat. What I wanted to ask you today is with the teams like the Chiefs and the Bills getting all the attention here in the AFC, and the Ravens being a team that historically plays better as an underdog, do you think that gives them a better chance to make a run late in the season if the Chiefs and Bills continue to play the way they're playing?
Who knows? I don't even know what that means, Todd, but I like what you're asking there. Do I think the Ravens are going to be good by the end of the year? Yeah. Do I think the Chiefs are going to be good by the end of the year? Yeah. Do we think the Bills are going to be good by the end of the year? Probably. Yeah. Okay. Also, who's very much flying under the radar in there is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's a very interesting question there for him talking about how the Ravens are flying under the radar. There's a team in the same division, Pittsburgh Steelers, that nobody's talking about. Mike Tomlin, a coach that nobody's ever respected. It feels like they are a team that could be flying under the radar in the AFC as well, but it's the Chiefs' world. We all know that. Now, last night, a Cam Newton-led New England Patriots probably have a different story there, but it's the Chiefs' world until it isn't. Ravens are still balling, but for me, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are the most underrated team in the AFC, and I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Bills and the Steelers are right there as far as being flying under the radar. I think the Bills are really good. I think they're easily going to win that division.
Jesus.
The Colts as well. Very fine under the radar.
Well, that's because they let Gardner Minshew go 19 of 20 in the first week, and it was really hard. I mean, we'll talk to Phillip Rivers here in less than an hour, and I'm going to ask him a couple questions about what happened that first week. You guys are a completely different team than you were that first week, which is interesting because that was my first lock, my first super boost. Was the Colts -6.5 against a team that had nobody who had a single name on it. So, I mean, it was a very interesting start, but the Colts are dominant right now, and their defense is very good, which is what you're going to need whenever you get into the playoffs. But I think the Steelers are the underrated team.
I think the thing with the Steelers, too, is people want to see them beat a real team, too.
Are you a Steelers fan saying that you would like to see them beat a real team? It for sure feels like that's what you're talking about.
Sounds like it.
Hour one is wrapping up. RSP Energy is one of the sponsors, but we have 0 things to read. So what I can tell you is this. We got some of the RSP Energy yesterday. We tried their chocolate protein powder. It was unbelievable.
Love it.
It was unbelievable. They also have these little protein shakes. Next level. I don't know if it's RSP Energy or RSP Nutrition. Whatever it is, It tasted delicious. And now that I'm not being a fat ass this fall, I'm going all in. So I appreciate RSP for the protein. I'm assuming there's some promo code we're supposed to have. We do not have it on the paper that's in front of me. We'll figure that out going forward. If you get a chance to try RSP Energy or Nutrition, you should do it. We did yesterday. Hour 1's wrapping up. Phillip Rivers is in hour 2. Woo! This is the Pat McAfee Show. A perennial Pro Bowler, an all-pro, a man who's aging like fine wines, Green Bay Packers legend, Super Bowl champion, from Butte, California, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Rodgers!
Please tell me that that's going to be a one-time thing.
What is the longest you've ever thrown?
Yeah, somewhere between 68 and 70, Pat. I don't know, right in that sweet spot.
69 yards is how far you threw it. Nice, congrats.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Of course you have, by the way. Of course you have. That doesn't get you going for a game? Are you kidding me?
No, but I have a funny Creed story. So, in 2007, we're playing the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. We're 10-1. I have long hair. I'm a backup, and before the game we walked out on the field, and I don't know if it was on purpose, but our intro song was Creed with Arms Wide Open. I looked to my buddy Nate Weir, who AJ knows Nate really well, and we both said this is going to be a good night. And that was the night I came in off the bench and played pretty well and kind of changed the narrative about me from, possible draft bust to, hey, this guy might be able to play, maybe.
Thank you, Creed.
Yeah!
My kids say, like, oh, if they see him on TV, oh, there's Uncle Aaron, look at that. Oh, Dad, is that Uncle Aaron's dog? I'm like, nah, it's a prop dog. They're like, well, what happens to that? I was like, oh, I think he hasn't killed after
What the hell's wrong with you?
Like, oh, no,
AJ.
no.
I noticed this past Sunday, you were smiling, shaking hands, giving a lot of high fives to the boys on the side. What have you seen in this old footage that has rejuvenated your love? Or is it something else about this 2020 season that seems to have you just in a better headspace?
Why am I having so much fun?
Bingo.
I have just a new and increased love of life. And I've made decisions and changes and habits that put me in a lot better headspace. And there's just a lot of things that have come together in my life over the last few months that have really been enjoyable and reminded me, given me perspective on life and in football to view things through the most positive lens I possibly can. And that's why I'm having so much fun. And it starts with love. And then surround yourself with people that you really enjoy. This show is, to get sentimental, this show is just another step in that, because I love Paige so much. And Pat, I have so much respect for you and the boys. Like, this was such a fun opportunity. And now I look forward to this every Tuesday.
Pat, quick 20.
I felt that way too. What's that?
Quick 20.
Buckets! Body, no, hey, by the way, just like splash, which I think is double.
Don't be making up.
No, yeah, it's like when you shut somebody out, it's double. Like, I think it only 40. Dude.
Hey, double or nothing.
We're trying to get double. Green card?
Double or nothing.
So
Some more important things.
Come on.
I'm worried about a $40 shot.
$20.
You saw the poll. Did you see the
So
poll?
it would be a $40 shot.
$40 shot,
If
yeah.
you make it.
Well, this is an $80 shot for you.
No.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. No.
Get back on D! Get back on D! That's 18!
40.
All right!
New week. New challenge.
Once again, trying to get a dude into the country legally.
You're not getting into the country, guys. All right, I need you to make one free throw. $20.
Okay, so you owe me 100.
No, I owe you 60.
You owe me 80.
I owe you 40.
You owe me 80.
You hit 20 and then you hit double or nothing.
No. The 20 was doubled because there was a splash. Your poll said that. This is a democracy.
Okay, well, if you splash the free throw, then we'll double the 20.
No. Okay, then you owe me 120.
All right, good luck.
Oh my God. The Canadian soccer player versus the American. What a play, Mick. That's tough, dude.
The Pat McAfee Show.
There will be no rules for our guests, for us, for the things we could talk about.
Speaking his mind
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions or my thoughts or anything like that.
while being relatable.
I haven't had that manufactured fake-ass celebrity that a lot of people have whenever they go on those big networks. I've had a chance to really build my crew, build my following, build my audience.
And ridiculous.
What am I supposed to do? So I'm supposed to look at something that I can definitely afford and say, nah. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
The Pat McAfee Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Good day. Hello. Hour 2 kicks off immediately after this beat drop from the incredibly talented Twine. Tuesday, October 6th, Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. In the first hour, we're joined by Charles Robinson, who broke down how and why the Bill O'Brien firing came to be yesterday on Monday, October 5th, just 4 weeks in to the 2020 NFL season. He basically chatted about how Bill O'Brien put him in a position that he was not able to point the finger at anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
He was the lead counsel on contract negotiations, which is not normal. Normally, general manager and lead counsel are two different people. He was lead counsel in the contract negotiations, which, by the way, the lead counsel gets a heads up from the GM on what they would like done. And then ultimately, the GM and the lead counsel come back together to confirm it. But the lead counsel is the one relaying the terrible messages to the agents and the players that they're negotiating deals with. So the fact that Bill O'Brien was acting as lead counsel as well as GM, if you're a player and you hear something said about you like Pawn Stars, which is what negotiations are like in the NFL, and in Pawn Stars, they normally have like a Civil War gun or an antique of some sort or a Super Bowl ring, and they talk about how there's nicks in it, or maybe it's going to have a long shelf life because it has a niche market, or they're only going to be able to sell it for this. They're saying that about humans in negotiations, and it's always weird because everybody's like, oh, you got to keep your business out of your personal. You got to separate business from personal. It's like, well, when one motherfucker tells me that I ain't worth a damn, and then I'm supposed to just be happy to talk to that guy, that's a very interesting situation that people who have never been in that situation who say like, oh, you got to be able to separate that for business purposes. It's like, well, I wasn't able to do so. And if I was talking to the guy doing my deal, who was also the head coach in the team meeting and also the play caller, and that guy was the one telling me like, well, your knee, you know, you did get hurt, and I've been talking with other people around the league, and they don't like you really. So this is the best option we got. It's like, well, wait a minute. Who am I talking to right now? I'm talking to lead counsel, the general manager, and the head coach who's supposed to rally the troops. I mean, he put himself in a tough position from the way Charles Robinson put it out. And whenever you're failing and you have all those responsibilities, it's hard to point a finger at anybody else. Yesterday, he got fired, packed his stuff. He is no longer a Houston Texan general manager, lead counsel, head coach, or play caller. Now Romeo Cornell is the interim head coach. Who will be the GM? Nobody knows. Who will be the play caller? We assume the guy that Bill O'Brien put out there to die in the first 3 weeks. He'll get the job back. But I think this Houston Texans team will rally around the renewed spirit of a new team and change, because that always happens when change happens at the top. People feel as if they have to prove themselves again. People prove as if maybe there's an opportunity that there wasn't in the past with the former person in charge. There's always a little bit of a resurgence whenever change happens at the top. I assume that'll happen for the Texans. Will it be withstandable? Who knows? We shall see. Congrats to Romeo Cornell getting another job and another crack at being a head coach.
They are 6-point favorites this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, so potential get the first W of the season this week. Do you think he's still the head coach of the Houston Texans if he was only the head coach of the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I think so. Because whenever you're a general manager and lead counsel, so lead counsel means that you're also deciding how much money to invest in players, so you can get anybody you want, or you can get rid of anybody you want. You can make it work, or you can be the reason that it doesn't work. So with the roster that he put together, that he negotiated, that he coached, and that he called plays, and if they fail, there's only one person you can blame, and that's that. If you're a head coach, you can say, well, the GM didn't give me the right players. And if you're a GM, you can say, well, we have a talented roster. You know, we do have a talented roster. These are always like the cliches you hear that are them not bailing are not throwing the coach or the GM under the bus or a coworker under the bus. It's them explaining away the blame for failure. Whenever you're doing everything, there's no way to explain that. It's like, yeah, I mean, it was me. It was me all along. It was me all along.
Everyone knew it.
Everyone knew it. So now the question is, since they fired, and the Carolina Panthers, I believe they fired Ron Rivera after week 3 maybe last year, or week 4. It was early. The Washington football team, they fired their coach early as well. In the early firing of Ron Rivera was because the new owner basically said, like, we're going in a new direction. We want to let him know that so he could get out there and experience something new. We're going in a different direction. We just want to do it in a respectful fashion. And when Rivera talked about it, it was very proper and classy. And when the Carolina Panthers talked about it, they were like, yeah, this is how it is. I wonder what's going to happen with Bill O'Brien and the Houston Texans here, how this is going to go. Because if we know anything about Bill O'Brien, like, this is not just going to be like a, brush it under the rug, no big deal. Bill O'Brien will have something to say here to and about this entire situation about getting fired at Boston Connor. What are your thoughts?
Going out birds up. But if the team rallies behind Romeo Cornell and it gets to the end of the season, they're still trying to choose, will players go to the owner and be like, hey, we love this guy. Can you keep him around?
It's such an interesting thing because I got a chance to play for an interim head coach. Okay. His name was Bill Stewart, and it was when I was in college. Rich Rodriguez leaves, goes to Michigan. We had just lost to Pitt in that 13-9 game that would have sent us to the national championship. Instead, we play in the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma. Oklahoma comes out and says that they expected a better opponent or something like that. The entire world is turning on our team and on me, obviously, for my missed kicks. But Rich Rod leaves, takes the entire coaching staff with him. Bill Stewart becomes interim head coach. And Bill Stewart was like the perfect guy, right? Which I think Romeo Cornell is going to be like the perfect guy. Bill Stewart was able to rally the troops. Bill Stewart was loved by all the players. For me, I don't know how everybody else felt, but after we just kind of got counted out with everything, and for me, booted out of every conversation of anything good, like Bill Stewart was the guy who was almost like a calming factor. That was like, hey, these guys forgot about you almost. It was like one of those types of speeches. And he was interim head coach. And after we beat Oklahoma, just beat the fucking breaks off of Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, just absolute ton. Boomer. Sooner than later, we beat the fuck out of them. And they didn't deserve that, okay? Good old JR was on the sideline. I did a belly-to-back suplex right in front of him on a kickoff. I mean, it was quite a moment.
McAfee wins! McAfee
wins! Only did all that Oklahoma stuff just to get to our JR impression we have in the office, which is damn good. But there was a lot of conversation by the people that weren't in our building, right? All the players were like, this is our guy, this is our guy, this is our guy. Outside the building, though, everybody was like, let's not make a decision off of an emotional high. And they ultimately hire him. We have success with Bill Stewart. He then eventually gets canned. Oliver Luck brings in Dana Holgorsen, go to the Big 12 whole era, right? So a lot of people look back at that and say, Bill Stewart was the perfect guy for that job for us, for the things that we were going through, our senior class and everything like that. And we like to hire. I still love the fact that Bill Stewart was a head coach for us. He was the perfect hire for us. But there's some people that look back and go, well, they hired him for an emotional thing and nothing happened or whatever. It's like, well, they also won the Orange Bowl, I think, the next year, and there was a lot of other stuff that happened. But long-term, Dana Holgorsen ends up going in there, moving to Big 12, kind of erasing our entire history there for a little bit. But it's one of those emotional hires. It happened last year, I believe, with the Carolina Panthers and the Washington football team, whoever was coaching over there, and the Cleveland Browns. You never know who you're going to have to hire, right? Because you can't just hire off of one 12-week run here that could be an emotional emotional response to Bill O'Brien finally being out of the building, which Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports compared the era to Cuba and Fidel Castro. But if Romeo Cornell has success, I don't know how J.J. Watt, who probably loves Romeo Cornell, I would assume Deshaun Watson also enjoys him. From everything I've ever heard, everybody loves Romeo Cornell. I don't see why they wouldn't hire him if he goes on a run here, right? But then, what's the future look like with Romeo Cornell? How long is he going to be your head coach? Are you going to go for a younger head coach that can maybe do some offensive, innovative shit like everybody else has been doing whenever they hire a head coach, especially with Deshaun Watson? There was somebody on the internet, I forget who it was, and I feel bad. I think it might have been Lombardi. I'm not 100% sure. That's to bring Dabo over, right?
Yeah,
Dabo and Deshaun love each other. Why not get a college coach to go up there? And I don't know. I'm not 100% sure with Dabo Swinney. I don't know much about him. I don't know how great of an NFL coach he'd be or how bad of an NFL coach he would be. But not everybody is fit to coach in the NFL, coaches in college. Like, there's a lot of college coaches that I've encountered that if they were to coach in the NFL, they would probably get laughed out of the building just because you're dealing with men as opposed to boys that are becoming men. It's a very different world. In college, you control every single moment of the student human athlete's life. In the NFL, it's very, very different. The players are getting paid more money than you, some of them. It's just a different world. I don't know about Dabo, but that is an interesting thought. Maybe a young, surprise offensive upstart who can maybe do what Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler were able to do, what LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers was able to do, what maybe Lincoln Riley comes up because his Oklahoma team looks like they're a couple years away from getting back to where they've been for the last couple years. I think there's a lot of things that could happen. Romeo Cornell is potentially lame duck coach happening here, just kind of finishing off the year. But if you're Romeo Cornell, you view this as a massive opportunity. You've been coaching for a long time, haven't got as many head coaching opportunities as you have. Now you have the Houston Texans potentially in the AFC South, and they can make a play for it.
It would have to be a hell of a run because Cornell is already 73 years old and he's 28 and 55 all time as a head coach in the league.
So Romeo's not going to be the head coach.
Hey, what if he goes on a run?
He could.
What if he is like a wine that had to be 73 years age that until it really reached his peak? I would assume that Romeo Cornell will rally the troops down there, and I assume the team is going to respond in a positive fashion. But I think they have to go, obviously, young upstart now at this point here. He's 73. I didn't know Romeo Cornell was 73, by the way. Shout out to Romeo Cornell, still doing it at 73.
Do you think the days of people hiring like a defensive-minded coach are pretty much done? I mean, you look at all the guys who are like the big defensive gurus right now in the NFL. Their defenses are piss poor, and they get their brains bashed in every week. You got Dan Quinn, Matt Patricia, Fangio, I mean, the way the NFL is going, don't you need to have a younger, wonderkind who can move pieces around and make sure the offense goes off?
Bill Belichick, defensive-minded coach.
Right.
Okay, greatest of all time. Harbaugh over there in Baltimore, special teams coach. Great coach. Mike Tomlin, defensive coach, right? So there is still Zimmer with the Vikings. I guess they've been kind of hot or cold here this year, obviously. Cold mostly, but they got hot here potentially against the Texans. There are great defensive coaches out there. But it feels like the trend of the NFL right now is it's the highest scoring it's ever been. You're not going to really be able to stop. We talked about this yesterday. A 14-point lead means jack shit now. Yeah. And I got somebody on Twitter, by the way, who said, saying the most obvious things. It's like, that was not an obvious thing just a couple years ago.
At all.
Saying that a 14-point lead is next to nothing now was not that noticeable or something that was even real a couple years ago. It's a very different football game. The NFL is very different now. It's a high-scoring affair. It's become a lot more like college, wide open. And defense has just got to hope to slow people down or stop them in the red zone, a la what the Patriots did to the Chiefs last night. So you'd think that it would be an offensive trend, but that sucks for the defensive coaches who are probably pretty good that could become head coaches that, you're probably just going to get caught in the wayside here with the failure of the young defensive coaches that have been getting gigs.
And Ty just brought him up, Dan Quinn. Can we expect 5 o'clock he's fired today, or we wait until tomorrow? What do we think?
I know. It feels like last year he fired every assistant coach and brought in every single new one, right?
Yep.
And so he was basically telling Arthur Blank, let me give it another shot here. I'll hire an entirely new staff, and it'll be still me, obviously, but entirely new staff. And that has not worked. I mean, now to his credit, though, Matt Ryan threw a 5-yard out, 7-8 yards short yesterday.
Yeah.
And
also throwing a lot of, 2-yard drags on 3rd and 8.
Yeah, a lot of poor decisions being made potentially. But Dan Quinn's, I would assume he knows he's not the future in Atlanta. In Atlanta, I would assume they're looking for a lot of change. Quarterback, coach, GM maybe. Whatever we could possibly do. Let's get let's get the fuck on with it, because the Falcons just a couple years ago were a celebration. Now it's the complete opposite of that, and it almost feels like their time has maybe worn off. What's up, Diggs?
I think you could still maybe get hired as a defensive head coach, but you better, when you come and you have your PowerPoint, have maybe one of the brightest, youngest minds as potentially as your offensive coordinator situation.
Yeah, you see, this guy, Lincoln Riley, lived on my couch in college. So, I mean, I don't want to say it's a 2-for-1 type thing, but you hire me and pay me a lot more money than we'll pay him. Like, I'll bring him along.
Rule and Brady. I mean, is that
hey,
what you're talking about? Or?
Rule's what? Linebacker, defensive coach, isn't he?
So I just looked it up because I was going to use that as an example. And he was the head coach for a while at a couple places, but before that, he was the offensive coordinator at Temple. But he did do defensive line at Temple too, so he was all over the place.
Yeah, and I think he played D-line, But Lincoln Riley, for the last 2-3 years, his name has been out there for the Cowboys gig, for other jobs. Like, hey, this is the guy. When Kyler came out, it was like, hey, hire this guy to be his coach. It's very interesting. And now that they got a freshman quarterback, a redshirt freshman in Spencer Rattler, and then they got that freshman wide receiver in Mims, they're losing games already. They've lost a couple games. Yeah. They're out of it. They're not going to be in where they were the last couple of years. Maybe this is when Lincoln Riley is like, okay, we still got another couple years here. Or Lincoln Riley has said he loves coaching in Oklahoma. Like, he loves college coaching. He loves what he's doing with his offenses. He's loving all that. But maybe this is the year that he decides to get in the NFL, and I would assume there's a lot of places that are going to be we want that guy.
Do you think NFL owners and GMs look at yeah, he had success for those 3 years and they were great. Does one bad year at Oklahoma?
Well, it's not just one bad year. It's also every time they get in the playoffs, they lose by 60 or 70.
They can't stop anything ever.
Yeah, so it is a very interesting thing. But I think if you look at the hiring process these days, it's like, do you have an offense that fucking moves or not? Yeah, you do? Okay, we won't hire. You know why? Because McVay got in there, and McVay led the Rams, which were loaded with talent, by the way. They built that team up on a rookie quarterback contract, very, very big, and that offense took the world by storm. This is a genius. LaFleur got hired because of it. Zach in Cincinnati got hired because of it. People are just getting hired because they knew Sean McVay. I would assume that Lincoln Riley would be able to choose wherever he wants to go, but it is alarming that his teams always just get spanked at the end, but they make it to the playoff every year. So it's like, do you really judge them that hard?
Right. It's not like Cliff Kingsbury's teams were also murderer's row of college football.
Hey, and by the way, he was offense coordinator for USC when he got hired. Like a week and a half, maybe 8 days or something.
You called it on the Texas Tech Baylor game that you called. You said he'll probably be out of town next week, somewhere else the following week, and he was.
I was told that I was not allowed to, because we knew going into that game that he was getting fired.
Yeah.
So going into calling game, it was me, AJ, and a guy named Sean Kelly, I believe was his name. I know it's Sean. I don't know the full name. Sean, he's a good guy too. Doesn't deserve me forgetting his name right now. He's a very good man. But it was the Texas shootout or something like that. And it was Baylor, Texas Tech. And it was this big game. And right before we go on the air, AJ has some inside source. He goes, oh, Cliff's getting fired after the game. And I was like, what? Because I think he played with Cliff at the pack. Like, so he knew Cliff. I think AJ knew Cliff or something. He knew somebody that knew Cliff, whatever it was. He knew Cliff somehow. And he knew somebody that knew. And he's like, oh, Cliff's getting fired right before we go live. And I was like, what the fuck? You can't tell me that. You cannot tell me that. So the entire game, we're like, well, I hope, man, if he wins here and then gets fired, I mean, that'd be a pretty cool little story, I guess, for him. But he was out of there. And then he gets hired to USC, and then he automatically goes up to the NFL. I think because Patrick Mahomes. I would assume because Patrick Mahomes' success. I'm not 100% sure. Or it was just like, hey, he's a young offensive mind who works really hard. Let's get him. But him and Kyler could be a great tag team, but the last 2 weeks they've looked like shit, and I don't love it. Let's go to Austin in Indiana. What's going on, Austin? But this week they cover 6.5.
Hell yeah. Bingo.
Yeah. For sure. What's going on, Austin?
Hey, how are you and the boys?
Not too shabby, brother. What do you want to talk about?
I just want to shout out real quick to Gumpy for that teaser bet last night. Made me a couple bucks. But just want to talk about the Packers and that offense that's rolling pretty good right now. And everybody was worried about drafting a receiver in the first couple of rounds.
All right, I'm sorry, Austin. It just feels like everybody.
The table, dude.
Oh, thank you. I mean, thank you, Gumpy.
Show some respect to the table, please.
Thank you. I mean, Gumpy has these nukes. I agree. Yeah. And I co-signed alongside.
I stunk this weekend. You were hot.
But I mean, let's have a little bit of fucking respect. A little bit.
Come on, Austin.
One time.
I am so sick of it. Like, for instance, I thought that Super Boost on FanDuel last night was void. Like, I thought it was. I didn't even see it on the site anymore.
Front page.
People lost, I guess. I started getting tweets today like, oh, your Super Boost again is back to being cursed. I'm like, I thought that some bitch was void. Yeah. They're like, no, it wasn't, I guess. I'm like, what? I didn't see it on there.
Doesn't
and I was told, by the way, to halt any talk of Super Boost because of what was going on. I was like, I kind of feel like that's an interesting
Getting
situation.
swindled.
I feel like
on?
it. I feel like it. But the game did happen, so I think FanDuel could
There's no
say.
way
No,
the
you
Super Boost
strike that from the record.
gave
Strike
Cam
it.
the virus.
I would like that not to be on the record.
Get rid of that one. Doesn't count.
Anyways, ungrateful Austin. What do you want to talk about?
Hey, sorry about that. I've taken a lot of your bets too, man.
No!
It's too fucking late. Okay?
Austin.
Don't walk it back now.
All right,
God
Austin.
damn it.
Go ahead.
But no, just the Packers offense, man. I think everybody's worried about drafting a receiver, and they're rolling. I think Matt LaFleur's offense is really clicking, and I don't know who's going to beat them.
Great question, Austin. Ty feels the exact same way. Feels a little bit of excitement about how they're playing right now. And I don't think everybody necessarily wanted them to draft a wide receiver, okay? Because they did not have a first-round pick to begin with. They traded up to get this selection. I think our biggest takeaway was the reason why the wide receiver conversation happened because he only has like 2 touchdowns that he's ever thrown to a first-round talent, okay? And a first-round talent is normally a person who's faster, more explosive. That's why they're in the first round because they ran a good 40. They jumped high. They have good film. So Aaron Rodgers only thrown 2 touchdowns to a first-round talent. That's Mercedes Lewis, who was drafted by the Jaguars, and we kind of caught him a little bit later in the career or whatever. So that's why everybody's like, oh, he needs a wide receiver. He needs a wide receiver because he's never had one. Now, granted, that offense is absolutely humming, and they didn't help it in the second round either. They drafted a running back behind Aaron Jones, who's on pace to potentially have one of the greatest running back years in the history of running backs. So it's good. They motivated both the quarterback and the running back with their first 2 selections. The big thing that we wanted, I think, was a defender. I wanted somebody on the defense because my big takeaway stat was they gave up 186 yards rushing before contact in the NFC Championship game. And if you're going to trade up into the first round to make a pick, you would think it'd be somebody that could help you immediately. And it felt like who could help them immediately was somebody on the defensive side. Now, we are finding out quickly that they didn't need any help. And maybe Gunther Kuhns knew that and was like, nah, that game against the 49ers was just an anomaly. We're good. We're completely fine. We don't need any help now. We'll get help for down the road, which, by the way, he might have been right with how the Packers look right now. But I think a little help on defense would have been nice.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing that pissed me off so much was that with the media and everything, there was this narrative that Rodgers was washed up after last year. So that's why they needed to get a quarterback because they needed to be looking at that. I mean, you said it. I just wanted them to get someone who was going to help get them over the hump to get them in the Super Bowl this year. But, maybe pissing Rodgers off was all they needed to do.
And maybe they knew that, hey, we piss this guy off, he's going to play better than ever.
Smart.
They only have, 2 Super Bowls right now through the entire Favre and Aaron Rodgers era thus far?
Yep. Made it to 3.
But only 2 Super Bowls right that entire time?
Yep.
You listen to Jim Irsay talk about the Peyton era, or you listen to Jim Irsay talk about the Andrew Luck era, all he thinks about is how we only got one with the Peyton Manning era, only got one with Andrew Luck. The big initiative, didn't get any with Andrew Luck, but the big initiative was multiple Super Bowls with Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
So you could tell that the only getting one with Peyton really was something that he was thinking about, and it's talked about a lot. We talked to Dallas Clark a couple weeks ago, and he said a lot of people say, oh, we should have got more, we got one, which is awesome. And Dallas Clark is 100% right in that fashion. But if you look at that team that they had, you think that team probably should have had a couple more. I was on a team that probably should have had one of those for their entire little dynasty legacy thing, and then Drew Brees and his baby got hot in the second half or whatever. But it's been very interesting whenever you start seeing that stat that the Packers, who have been good for so long and have had 2 of the best quarterbacks of all time, only have 2 Super Bowls to account for it. There's a lot of question marks potentially around that.
Yeah, I mean, they got beat by the Broncos and Elway in the late 90s, but that is the big thing with Rodgers. They've been right there. They've made it to 3 other NFC championship games.
And not one human says it's Aaron Rodgers' fault. So maybe if you're a franchise, you should look at that and say, we could probably help our guy out here.
Ipso facto.
That one in Seattle was definitely not Rodgers' fault. We know what happened there.
Neither was the one against the Falcons where they gave up, fucking 85 points.
Well, how about the one against
the Niners
in the NFC Championship game? It's just... Now, I don't know what happens against the Chiefs, because if the Niners were able to run for 186 yards before contact against that Packers team, who knows what that Chiefs team does in the Super Bowl. But Chiefs team didn't look great in the first half until the second half they started really going there.
And guess what? You make it to the Super Bowl, you get the doors blown off. Hey, you know what? We'll come back and get them next year, but we made it to the big dance.
Well, Patriots fans are like, yeah, we make it and we win them all the time, but that's not normal.
No, it's not.
6 for 9.
But what is this, 40 years of Rodgers and Favre? 30-some years?
Yeah, basically my entire lifetime.
Those are 2 very good quarterbacks, and as an organization, what do you need? A good quarterback.
Yeah,
and they've had it. It's like they got to win at least 1 or 2 more with Aaron, right? They have to.
Have to.
And it is not a good time to have to win Super Bowls, because there is a young group of football players out there that are balling. Whew. We'll talk to Aaron, by the way, in less than an hour. Can't wait to chat with him. He is a stud. I'm also going to do this thing to him. Excuse me. What? That's right. Ball tricks and more. This is the Pat McAfee Show, Tuesday, October 6th. A perennial Pro Bowler, an all-pro, a man who's aging like fine wines, Green Bay Packers legend, Super Bowl champion, from Butte, California, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Rodgers!
Please tell me that that's going to be a one-time thing.
What is the longest you've ever thrown?
Yeah, somewhere between 68 and 70, Pat. I don't know, right in that sweet spot.
69 yards is how far you threw it. Nice, congrats.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah! Of course you have, by the way. Of course you have. That doesn't get you going for a game? Are you kidding me?
No, but I have a funny Creed story. So, in 2007, we're playing the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. We're 10-1. I have long hair. I'm a backup, and before the game we walked down the field, and I don't know if it was on purpose, but our intro song was Creed with Arms Wide Open. I looked to my buddy Nate Weir, who AJ knows Nate really well, and we both said this is going to be a good night. And that was the night I came in off the bench and played pretty well and kind of changed the narrative about me from, possible draft bust to, hey, this guy might be able to play, maybe.
Thank you, Creed.
Yeah! My kids say, like, oh, if they see him on TV, oh, there's Uncle Aaron, look at that. Oh, Dad, is that Uncle Aaron's dog? I'm like, nah, it's a prop dog. They're like, well, what happens to that? I was like, oh, I think he hasn't killed after that.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Like, oh, no,
AJ.
I noticed this past Sunday, you were smiling, shaking hands, giving a lot of high fives to the boys on the side. What have you seen in this old footage that has rejuvenated your love? Or is it something else about this 2020 season that seems to have you just in a better headspace?
Why am I having so much fun?
Bingo.
I have just a new and increased love of life. And I've made decisions and changes and habits that put me in a lot better headspace. And there's just a lot of things that have come together in my life over the last few months that have really been enjoyable and reminded me, given me perspective on life and in football to view things through the most positive lens I possibly can. And that's why I'm having so much fun. And it starts with love. And then surround yourself with people that you really enjoy. This show is, to get sentimental, this show is just another step in that, because I love Age so much. And Pat, I have so much respect for you and the boys. Like, this was such a fun opportunity. And now I look forward to this every Tuesday.
This is the Pat McAfee Show on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82.
Ooh.
Is that a hawk?
Ventures Down Under.
This is from artist name is Stahl, S-T-A-H-L.
Ooh.
Style. Gunner.
Stahl.
That's a good
Like style.
Gunner Stahl.
Wait, that's how he spelled it.
Speaking of a gunner, Phil Rivers has been canceled on today.
Phil. What?
I put a lot
Aggravates the stew out of me.
Yeah, dadgummit.
What a dirtbag.
Came up short on that throw.
Turns out his lift turned the corner on him.
Yep.
His lift that he was in, that he was going to come out of and call into the show for 10 to 12 minutes before we had the hard out here for the second hour. It's running about 10 to 15 minutes behind. And if you do the math there, that runs in the second hour, which runs into Aaron Rodgers Tuesday.
Can't do that.
So
Can't do it.
due to a scheduling conflict between us and the Rivers, Phillip Rivers has been canceled.
Just flow him down the river.
What's he doing? Throwing medicine balls? To help.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
you
with,
son of a
I mean,
gun.
like the core. Like
No,
the,
I
bet.
You are a horrible person.
That is a 3-and-1 quarterback right now.
I'm not talking about him throwing the football like a balloon. I'm talking about him working out with the medicine ball.
Let's get to Billy in Florida. What's going on, Billy? A Florida man.
Yeah, how you doing, Pat?
Not too shabby, Billy. What part of Florida are you in?
I'm from Port St. Lucie. It's the spring training home of the New York Mets.
Oh, nice. They stink. They should get better. What do you want to talk about?
All right, so
they do.
Not to mention, longtime fan of the show. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on. Call all the time. Super stoked.
Billy.
What I want to talk about, my
Come
hometown
on,
team,
Bill.
the Miami
Yeah.
Dolphins.
Yeah.
Fins up.
You know,
Fins up,
should we expect to see Tua this year?
Fins to the right. You're the only one in town. Thank you for the question, Billy. Wrong song. The Billy in Florida was going to ask about when we should see Tua. It has been announced that Ryan Fitzmagic will be the starter again for Week 5. And whenever we talked to Kyle Van Noy a couple weeks ago after a Thursday night success run against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Kyle Van Noy said, it's not about Tua. It's, Fitzmagic. You know. And so that made me believe that in the building, they're talking as if this is Fitzmagic's team, and they all kind of understand that. And if you talk to Michael Lombardi, I believe Michael Lombardi said, like, when are you going to wait to find out if Tua's got it or not? Air Bear, got it. Joey Burrow, got it. The third of the top 5 picks there would be Tua, who was initially going to be the number 1 overall, and then a hip injury potentially dropped him below. And also Joe Burrow having a magical season, Joe Burrow. So now the question is, when is the right time to put Tua in? I believe Week 10 or Week 11, they have the Jets. Maybe it's even after a bye week. What's that, Diggs?
So they have the Jets, then the bye week, and then the Jets, and then the Bengals.
So that feels like the proper time to maybe put a guy in. I mean, who knows at what point the Jets are going to completely mail it in, or you know what? Maybe the Jets turn around and rattle off 12 straight. I mean, we never know. And then if they also have the Bengals, that'll be a battle with Joe Burrow, which I think a lot of people would want to see, obviously. So maybe you wait until then. Brian Flores came out and said that he's trying to view it as if how he would want his son to be treated coming off of that injury. When do you put him back in? When do you keep him on? How long do you keep him on the sideline? It's a very interesting dynamic because everybody, like the Jets, okay, the Jets are not a great football team. Their defense could play like an NFL team one week. Like they're filled with great players. You never know what's going to happen. So Tua's going to get dropped into the deep end at some point. And Ryan Fitzmagic is the head of that squad. It's been very obvious from the players and from the coaches. But it feels like that Week 11, Week 12, Week 13 that feels like the right time. If you're looking from outside in to maybe try a brand new quarterback who just came off of a nasty hip injury, who has not taken a lot of hits, who has not had a preseason game, who has not done much of anything, that feels like the right time. And if you don't expect to win the AFC East, which I don't think the Dolphins do, why are you blowing your future plans instead of waiting a couple more weeks to let us see if he can figure it out? Is that, Gumpy, you're a big Dolphins fan. Is that kind of the news around the Dolphins fan base?
Yeah, a lot of people are pushing for Tua, but I mean, cool, the Jets. At the start of the year, everyone was fine with him sitting the whole year for Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
Now we lose to the Seahawks. Like, we weren't going to beat the Seahawks anyways.
So you think the Dolphins are a fan base that was potentially being a bit fickle? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
Fickle.
That's a good word.
Exactly.
All right. Canadian Gumpy, which we have been told is very, very intelligent. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
Canadians.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
If you had to guess what fickle meant, what would you guess that meant, Gumpy?
Feathers ruffled easily.
I mean, kind of.
Good context clue.
Fickle means changes, basically.
Yeah, changing
your views.
wishy-washy.
Yeah, kind of
Especially as
wishy-washy.
regards one's loyalty, interests.
Bingo. So it's exactly like
I'm fickle, if it helps.
Diggs is a fickle human being. And a lot of people are fickle, by the way. A lot of fan bases are fickle.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me that the Dolphins fan base is fickle when it comes to the Tua thing. But I think if you're not starting him at the beginning of the season, it's because you're looking out for him. So then if you drop him in Week 5, when you could drop him in Week 11 against a much lesser opponent and with 5 more weeks of potential preparation and watching Ryan Fitzmagic, the amount of things he could still learn. I don't know. That just feels like a common response from a fan base, but I don't think that's the right response.
It seems like if you go Tua with the 2 games against the Jets and then the Bengals, so you get 3 easier opponents, and then you have the Chiefs, Patriots, and Bills to round out the season. You get to see him against a couple harder teams too.
Oh, yeah.
Do you really want to put Tua in against the Jets where their D coordinators call him bounties on quarterbacks' heads?
Very true.
I mean, what are we thinking?
I didn't eat twice, by the way.
Tua's out for the next 8 years if you put him in against Greg Williams.
I didn't even think about that. Maybe put him in now and then bench him in week 11.
Bingo.
If they lose to the Niners, they do have the Broncos after that. He could play that game.
What are you saying about the Broncos?
What are you saying about the Broncos?
Whoa, what are you trying to say?
Not a great team right now, Tony.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shots at men.
Let's go to Bradley in Akron, just a kid from Akron. What's going on, bub?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Congrats on a millie.
Hey, thank you, Bradley. We appreciate the hell out of you, brother. What do you want to talk about?
I just wanted to get your thoughts on my Cleveland Browns and after winning these last 3 games, whether you think they're the contender that me and my fellow Browns fans have been waiting for forever.
First of all, I would like to say congratulations to Bradley, his friends, and all of the dog pound for being 3-1 for the first time in a long, long time to start an NFL season. I remember it was not long ago that Browns fans would show up on a very regular basis with paper bags over their heads. It wasn't that long ago that beer, Bud Light to be exact, in a city was locked in a cooler, could not be drank because the Browns did not win a game. It was not that long ago that Hard Knocks exposed the reason why your team stunk, and then you had to watch along while the team stunk. Yeah. It wasn't long ago that the Browns became the second team in the history of the league to go completely defeated, which is not an easy feat to have. It wasn't that long ago that the world was crumbling around the dog pound in the Cleveland Browns when they were hiring their 10th GM in 2 years and their 45th head coach in the last 1 year. It was a very bad time to be a Browns fan. But Browns fans have been some of the most loyal fans for a long, long time. Remember, at one point, the Cleveland Browns were the biggest rival to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then the team just picked up and left and went to Baltimore. And the Cleveland Browns fans were left with shit in their hand whenever it came to NFL Sundays. Then the Cleveland Browns and the dog pound came back. A resurgence in the fan base, but not in the football team. In this year, Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Jarvis Landry at quarterback and wide receiver, Odell Beckham at running back and wide receiver, Chubb, Kareem Hunt, an offensive line that has been renewed, and a nerd head coach who has a great personality, with a brand new GM and Andrew Berry who stacked the defensive line. It does feel like for the first time in a long, long time, Cleveland Browns fans can lay their head on the pillow at night and say all of this loyalty to this franchise that has kicked us in the dick numerous times before is getting it right, and it's a great day to be in the dog pound. Yeah. With that being said, Pittsburgh Steelers are playing really good football right now. Yeah. Baltimore Ravens are playing very good football right now, and they're in the same division. It's going to be tough for 3 teams in the same division to make the playoffs. Will they be able to topple the Pittsburgh Steelers? Their once mighty foe, now kind of bug windshield operation for the last decade and a half. That is going to be a real battle that we will have to see play out.
If the playoffs started today, they would be the 7th seed and be in the playoffs. Yep. So congrats to the Browns.
Congrats to the Browns.
And congrats to the Browns for winning the games that they should be winning. Their 3 wins have come against the Washington football team, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Bengals. And then they got the doors blown off them by the Ravens. But the same thing as the Steelers, same thing as the Browns. I would like to wait a little bit and see if they could beat the good teams and not just beat up on the bad teams and see how the season goes from there.
Hey, some guys on radio call you guys the clappers, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, because we clap.
But that type of insight right there,
good.
Jason Garrett couldn't give the original clapper. Just want to let you know that.
No, probably not.
That was something they couldn't.
Probably not. But the Browns do have the Colts and Steelers coming up, so that matchup between the Steelers and Browns, very eager to see.
And by the way, the Browns have figured out the formula for their team to win. It's run the ball, play action, let's make big plays when we have to. So maybe they have figured out the team, and maybe their fans should be very pumped, and I think that is the case.
I believe we're going to find out, too, because the Colts and Steelers, I believe, are 1-2 in rushing defense to see how they play against those type teams.
Let's go to Brandon in Fort Wayne. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, Pat. Hey, boys. I was just calling to talk about Jair Alexander and that Packers secondary today. Oh, yeah. Everybody's heaping a lot of love on Aaron Rodgers and how our offense is doing, but Jair came into the Packers a couple years ago and was like, I'm covering Devontae Adams. And last night he holds Calvin Ridley to 0 receptions.
There was a couple misses by Matt Ryan for Calvin Ridley for sure, but that defense played very good last night.
Jair Alexander is very good. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and I think a lot of people always say that. But, I mean, what are you going to do? It's Rodgers' team.
Last year it happened. The Packers defense became very opportunistic.
Yes.
They would give up yards. It was kind of cardiac, but then a big turnover would happen. And I believe Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, and who else?
Preston Smith.
The other Smith, the Smith brothers at D-line, they kind of brought in a new mentality potentially to that defense. But in the playoffs, Jair Alexander can't help if you can't stop the run. 300-some yards on the ground. There's nothing he can do about that.
And also, it's a lot easier to play, like as DB has told us, Zadarius Smith was in the backfield I think he had 8 quarterback pressures last night. So, it's, a little bit easier playing D-back when your guys are pinning their ears back and going after the quarterback.
By the way, that is not a shot at Jair Alexander.
No, not at all.
Hey, the defense is playing great team defense right now.
On a string, baby.
We'll get pressure. You can jump routes. Let's have a good time out here. And that is what the Green Bay Packers defense has been doing. And there was a couple times last night where I was like, oh, the Falcons are back in this. And then Aaron Rodgers walks back on the field and just buries them.
Oh, no, they're not.
No, this is over, actually.
Yeah.
Well, you guys just went on a 10-minute drive. It was so fucking boring. I was getting cold over here. I'll come out here, 4 plays. We're in the red zone, touchdown. This thing's over. Let's not even play. By the way, we're going to get the ball back again, and we're going to do the same exact thing. Boom, boom, boom.
Are you sure we should call timeouts while Aaron Rodgers has the ball, Dan?
Dan, do you think Matt Ryan looked over at Dan Quinn and goes, after first down, we're calling a timeout right there? And Dan's like, yeah, we're going to get you the ball back. And he goes, let me take your mask off so you can see what I'm saying here. Don't fucking do that.
That's Aaron Rodgers over there.
That was an interesting call. Rodgers was flexing on him all night last night. Update here from Ian Rappaport from NFL Network and NFL Daily. His source tells him, according to my sources, the 49ers are releasing wide receiver Mohamed Sanu as San Francisco gets healthy at the position with some of their young guys. Rare for an experienced, accomplished wide receiver to be free in early October. The Patriots got rid of him. He got signed to the 49ers. 49ers now getting rid of him. I'm very intrigued to hear what is next for Mohamed Sanu. The conversation around Mohamed Sanu is he's a freak athlete. The guy can kick like a 65-yard field goal. He can throw like a 75-yard bomb if you have to. He was working out with Cam Newton in the offseason. As soon as Cam Newton became a Patriot, I assumed that he was going to be I thought he was going to dominate, to be honest with you, with the Patriots. I thought it was going to be a great thing for Mohamed Sanu. Whenever the Patriots let him go, you go, okay, well, this is Bill Belichick doing what Bill Belichick does. They still need some weapons up there, it does feel. So if he's getting rid of him, what does this mean? Now the 49ers are getting rid of him. Very interesting decision here. What is next for Mohamed Sanu? Is Mohamed Sanu done?
Well, Tom Curran said it to us. He said, we all looked at each other at the press box and said, is Mohamed Sanu really that slow?
Oh, yeah. I think he said glacial.
Glacial. Yeah, that was the word. And if I'm the Jets, I'm going to get Sanu, and I'm putting him at quarterback so Sam Darnold doesn't die this season.
Smart. He does have videos all over the place of him throwing the rock around. Many would argue he's probably the second best non-quarterback maybe in the NFL right now.
Who's one?
Sam Cook, Baltimore Ravens.
Is that right?
7 for 7, 115.5 passer rating over his career.
Best of all time.
Best of all time.
Wow.
Best of all time. We'll ask Aaron Rodgers his thoughts, but Sam Cook for the Baltimore Ravens, he throws an in to his gunner better than anybody else in history.
A lot of disrespect in your voice there.
Him in the numbers.
Whoa.
No,
he does sling it, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They showed his highlight, and it was slow-mo. His form is like a perfect, he's
got some zip on it.
He spins it.
Lamar should take a look at that.
What is your problem?
What is your problem?
I don't have a problem. We're talking about the greatest passer in the history of the NFL. The quarterback on the same team as the greatest passer should look at that and say, hey, maybe I'll change my throwing motion to that.
He sings a lot different tune when his team gets throttled the night before.
Oh, yeah, he starts taking shots at everybody else.
13-10 going into the fourth.
Hey, Bill O'Brien, good luck, pal.
13-10 going into the fourth quarter.
Let's go to Tristan.
Either
27-13 against the Ravens.
Christian from Pittsburgh. What's going on?
Oh, Turner's Ice.
Hey, how's it going, Pat? How are you and the boys doing?
Good. What's your name?
My name is Tristan, like Tristan.
Tristan. Thought so.
So it's Tristan.
Yep.
All right. Nice to talk to you, Tristan. What do you want to talk? I've never met a Tristan, by the way. What part of Pittsburgh are you from?
I'm from North Versailles, about 20 minutes from Plumboro.
Oh, yeah. We know Versailles here.
Down by Squirrel Hill.
Nope. Nowhere near Squirrel Hill. What do you want to talk about, brother?
No, I want to talk about this Steelers game here this weekend. So the Steelers didn't get their bye, so no matter what Mike Tomlin says, they're all pretty pissed off about it.
Yes.
And they get pretty much an extra half a week to prepare for the Eagles this weekend. Plus, they're at home, and they're laying only 7.5 on a FanDuel Sportsbook. So are we hammering down on the Steelers this weekend?
It does feel like we are hammering down on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, anytime you play the Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh, there's a little, in-state rivalry there, a full conversation. I don't know why that's only 7.5, but don't say that they've gotten a week and a half to prepare for the Eagles, because it wasn't until Friday, I think, did they find out that the Titans game was officially going to be postponed, because the thought was maybe Monday or even Tuesday. So that is why the players are so pissed off, because they weren't told that they were in a bye week until the bye week was pretty much over, which is now this year's bye weeks are very different anyways. You're not allowed to leave the city. You still have to get tested every day. So you just don't go in and practice or lift or do whatever. I don't know exactly what the difference is. I guess you just get to Netflix a little bit longer at your house. So I think the reason why players were pissed off is because they weren't told that they were in a bye week, right? The decision, because it was the first time that the NFL had to deal with a real COVID outbreak, it was a little bit of a flippy, floppy decision. Okay, we'll potentially have this game on Monday. We'll delay it one day. But if we get another positive test, we'll delay it to Tuesday. Okay, so now we're pushing it back 48 hours here, a decision being made. Then another positive comes, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. We'll see if any more come. More came. Now we have to postpone it officially. So the Titans, I would assume, were treating this like a bye week a lot more than the Pittsburgh Steelers were, because the Titans weren't allowed in their building on Wednesday. The Titans weren't allowed in their building on Thursday. The Titans weren't allowed in their building on Friday. The Pittsburgh Steelers were in the building, I believe, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, thinking they were still playing the Titans. So it wasn't like halfway through the week last week they got a heads up where they could start changing their focus to the Philadelphia Eagles a week and a half from now, which, by the way, is what a bye week is. A bye week is not only a refresher, a resurgence, a reflection period. It is also a time like, okay, we got 2 weeks to think about our next opponent. That's why they're coming off of a Ravens one in the middle of the season is much better than early here, because you still don't know what's going to happen towards injuries and what teams are. So the Steelers did get mightily fucked by the COVID outbreak in the Tennessee Titans building, but I'd still like the Steelers playing against the Eagles. I mean, until the Eagles can prove that they can be great all the time, I think is then comes a time where we bet on the Eagles. I mean, they beat a JV football team with the 49ers not having anybody. They had George Kittle on the field, which is a monster, and he ate. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are just finding their groove now, and I think it's going to be a much different story in Pittsburgh.
They tend to play down to their opponent, but breaking news out of Pittsburgh this morning, there's going to be 7,500 fans allowed in the stands.
Oh, 7,500 terrible ties out there.
I think there will be some added motivation with the fans in the stands.
Well, not just that. The players are pissed, right? The players are not happy. And it's not the Steelers' fault. So Tomlin can use this as motivation, right? The league doesn't want him to win, blah, 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 this whole thing. You're set up against having to go 14 weeks straight if you want to make the playoffs, like all that shit. I just think with the defensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which would haunt me if I was a quarterback. And I assume Carson Wentz is having those thoughts right now as we speak. With that Eagles offensive line, this is just problematic. I don't know if 7.5 is enough, and that does feel like an early hammer here on a beautiful Tuesday, October 6th for this upcoming weekend.
I don't know what the Steelers' schedule is like, but do you think if, like, let's say they play the Jets week 15, Tom will just be like, fuck it, just take the week off. We're going to beat the piss out of these guys on Sundays anyway. Like,
you have to keep that in mind. If you're a Steelers fan and you see Tomlin do that week 15, week 16, I assume that the initial reaction is to be pissed off, but then a quick thought of, oh, we got actually 2 bye weeks here because we went on a run and it's at the perfect time. Let's get fresh going into the playoffs. The big question is, if you take guys out and you take your foot off the gas, will you lose anything? Will you lose the rhythm you're in? Will you lose the kind of mojo, the flow that your team has going at the end of the year? That was the big question with the Colts team that I was on my rookie year, because we were just boat racing everybody. It was just like dun, 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 dun.
Mm-hmm.
Then the last 2 weeks, play a couple series, pick up some records or whatever, and then we're out. It's like, will that be a hiccup at all or a slowdown for the team? It turned out it wasn't, but it is a question that could happen.
Do teams with normal bye weeks still have to come into the facility and get tested for COVID throughout the week?
And what is a point of care test?
That's a good point.
Is that at your house? Like, are you taking?
I think that's the one. It looked like by the video, as soon as they show up at the security gate or whatever, they're getting swabbed in their cars. Is what I saw.
Yeah, so you can't go home. So a bye week really is.
Nobody really gets a bye week.
I guess you're just not.
No practice.
You don't have to be at the facility.
Body, I guess.
You get in the mind. The biggest thing is your mind being like, okay, I'm off this week. Like, it is a cool thing. That's why this early kind of sucks, because you're not even into the meat of it or anything like that. But not being able to even know you're in a bye week when you're in a bye week is rather hilarious, because those guys still at night by the way, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, watching all the film they could possibly watch on the Titans. They're just studying. And then all of a sudden on Friday, all that shit you did was just a waste of time, by the way.
Got to do it again.
So when you could have just chilled and slept or whatever because we didn't have an opponent and you were watching film, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. And in a few weeks, like maybe you'll be able to still remember that, but we got like 3 other games until we get there. It's just, that is the part that's just like, okay. Because you always ask for your team to invest in the process. So that would mean watching a lot of film. That would mean doing all the extra shit. And if the guys did that properly in Pittsburgh to what fans would hope that they do it, they just wasted an entire week, a lot of energy. They could have just chilled. I think that is why you see a lot of players pissed off.
And to Ty's point, as far as taking off, one of the last 2 weeks, they have the Browns and Colts in the last 2 weeks, so those probably gonna be 2 pretty big games for playoffs.
Man, let's go to Rob in New York. What's going on, Rob? Big Rob.
Yeah, huge Washington Redskins fan.
Football team.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Come on.
That's New York for you.
Not the name of the franchise.
That's
Not
New
on
York
this show.
for
I
you.
got enough old whites already mad at me for saying fuck. I don't need to be calling teams the wrong name at this point.
Good God.
There's actually a guy who tweeted us. His name is Old White Ed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just turned 50.
it's got to be a burner.
That guy sucks. Like,
OWE.
if the word fuck is the biggest problem in your day, like just look around for 4 minutes at the world that we're in right
How
now.
old are
Just
you?
4 minutes look around.
Regular television after 10 o'clock, they can do it.
Michael Jordan was saying it on ESPN.
Yeah.
That's Disney.
Yeah. Lance Armstrong.
And by the way, if your kids, because I said some bitch on College Game Day, whenever I said roll, and I was going to say motherfucking Tide, but then I had to remember, oh, no, can't say that. So as my brain is saying, as my mouth is saying roll, my brain is trying to fight and combat the motherfucking there because that would have been that's the proper sequence there.
Right.
So then I had to replace that because I didn't think I could just say roll Tide. Like that's not, I have to hit something in there. So I went with some bitch because I thought that was the most
I thought
FCC.
you could say that, though.
Me too. My brain thought it was the most FCC regulated thing. And then we get to the end, obviously, blah, blah, blah. And then I watched the clip back and they
10 seconds later.
They bleeped out the hammer hit or whatever.
Really?
I'm like, oh, did they just bleep out some bitch? And then I got somebody to tweet me about some bitch that him and his kid watch College Game Day together, and now he has to explain what the word bitch means. I'm like, well, it's a female dog.
Well,
Fucking figure it out, pal.
Even the producers.
Stop being a little bitch about it.
Even the producers were like, "Yeah, you did nothing wrong."
Yeah, well, who knows? That could have potentially been because of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to Colby in Austin. What's going on, Colby?
Disney's done much worse
What's up,
than
Pat?
some
Shout out
bitch.
to boys.
Hey, shout out to you, man.
Shout
What's
out.
going on?
Yeah, question. At what point do the Cowboys make a move for a defensive back? It's pretty disgusting watching them get burned every Sunday. Dak's playing his ass off.
Is he?
Do you think they just go out and sign Earl Thomas for the hell of it?
Jeez.
Great question, Colby. I mean, the question there revolves around whether or not Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones had a full conversation on if Earl Thomas is the type of guy they want in the culture that they're trying to build under the McCarthy era in the Star, or whatever the hell that place is called down there. Earl Thomas, it is alleged, was working out for the Houston Texans, and Houston Texans players, I don't know if they went to the head coach, the GM, the owner, or the lead counsel, which is all the same person except for one of those jobs, and said, we don't want him here. And then Bill O'Brien said, well, we don't want him here because our players don't want him here. Or maybe Bill O'Brien pawned it off on the players, saying that the players voted not to come in there, right? Which we can't be too sure of. It's just whether or not Mike McCarthy wants Earl Thomas in his building. And I think with what happened in Seattle and what happened in Baltimore and the way the things ended there, it was obviously going to put antennas up for every NFL organization. And Darius Butler and I talked about this the other day, is once you get labeled a distraction or potential a negative person, that is a hard stigma to get rid of, because teams just trust that other teams don't want to deal with it, right? It's like, oh, that person is a distraction. Instead of us looking into the Seattle situation, which could have been legit and warranted of Earl Thomas being pissed off. We don't know. I don't know, but could have been legit. Instead of looking into the Baltimore situation, which could have been legit by Earl Thomas, the players said, get him the hell out of here, but maybe it was just a bad fit. Instead of looking into that, just being like, oh, what's happened in Seattle happened in Baltimore, instead of wasting our time and finding out whether or not this was Earl Thomas' fault or the other people's fault, we're just going to say, fuck him, we'll keep him out of here. We don't want to do it. And that is just something that happens in the NFL, and I feel like Earl Thomas is currently living in that world. And if you listen to Darius Butler talk about the Dallas Cowboys defense, he put out a tweet about it. He was like, it was the worst communication he's ever seen. It's the worst execution. It's the worst lineup. It was just the worst defense he thinks he's ever seen play football before. for. You would think that they would want a talented player back there like Earl Thomas, if Earl Thomas is still talented. But that word distraction, if it gets labeled on top of you, is a tough word to get out of.
Do you think they're maybe better off just giving Zeke the ball a little bit more? You know, like he's only had 12 carries again last time. Like when you let Dak throw 70 times a game, like sometimes you are going to have several 3-and-outs, and your defense is going to be on the field a lot, and they're going to end up getting torched.
Well, and you're not running the clock out at all.
No.
Okay, so your defense could be out there even longer.
And his numbers will look good because if you're down by 5 touchdowns in the second half, he's going to throw for a lot of yards.
Is this something that the Green Bay Packers fans dealt with McCarthy a lot?
Aaron Jones, when he was really starting to explode, he just refused to use him. Like, he'd have one game where, I think it was a year, he was averaging like 7 yards a carry. Like, he'd come in, he'd have like 7 carries for like 85 yards, and then he wouldn't fucking play the rest of the game. And it was just like, okay, well, what's going on here?
Seems to be a trend with old Mike McCarthy. They'll figure it out maybe. We got about 30 seconds till hour 2 wraps up here. Sorry we missed Phil Rivers. We got Aaron Rodgers on the other side with AJ Hawk. We will clear the phone lines. If you have a question for Aaron, go ahead and call in now. 1-888-MAD-DOG-6 here on Sirius XM Mag Dog Sports Radio Channel 82. Aaron Rodgers is on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show, Tuesday, October 6, 2020. A perennial Pro Bowler, an all-pro, a man who's aging like fine wines, Green Bay Packers legend, Super Bowl champion, from Butte, California, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Rodgers!
Please tell me that that's going to be a one-time thing.
What is the longest you've ever thrown?
Yeah, somewhere between 68 and 70, Pat. I don't know, right in that sweet spot.
69 yards is how far you threw it. Nice, congrats.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Of course you have, by the way. Of course you have. That doesn't get you going for a game? Are you kidding me?
No, but I have a funny Creed story. So, in 2007, we're playing the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. We're 10-1. I have long hair. I'm a backup. And before the game, we walked down the field, and I don't know if it was on purpose, but our intro song was Creed with Arms Wide Open. I looked to my buddy Nate Weir, who AJ knows Nate really well, and we both said this is going to be a good night. And that was the night I came in off the bench and played pretty well and kind of changed the narrative about me from, possible draft bust to, hey, this guy might be able to play, maybe.
Thank you, Creed.
Yeah! My kids say, like, if they see him on TV, there's Uncle Aaron, look at that. Oh, Dad, is that Uncle Aaron's dog? I'm like, nah, it's a prop dog. They're like, well, what happens to that? I was like, I think he hasn't killed after that.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Like, oh, no,
AJ.
I noticed this past Sunday, you were smiling, shaking hands, giving a lot of high fives to the boys on the side. What have you seen in this old footage that has rejuvenated your love? Or is it something else about this 2020 season that seems to have you just in a better headspace?
Why am I having so much fun?
Bingo.
I have just a new and increased love of life. And I've made decisions and changes and habits that put me in a lot better headspace. And there's just a lot of things that have come together in my life over the last few months that have really been enjoyable and reminded me, given me perspective on life and in football to view things through the most positive lens I possibly can. And that's why I'm having so much fun. And it starts with love. And then surround yourself with people that you really enjoy. This show is, to get sentimental, this show is just another step in that, because I love Age so much. And Pat, I have so much respect for you and the boys. Like, this was such a fun opportunity. And now I look forward to this every Tuesday.
I think they'll move the ball. The problem with Brian Hoyer is when the ball gets, like what happened with Indianapolis, when it gets down to the red zone, he tries to become somebody he's not, and they got to do a really good job of protecting that he doesn't turn that ball over.
I don't like the spreads here, Mike, but Monday nights we like to make picks on the games.
Yeah, that's what we do
That's
around
what we
here.
do at this table.
That's what we do at this table.
So I'm doing a 6-point teaser at -130. So I'm getting the Chiefs at -4.5 and the Packers as a pick 'em.
Right.
That's
Hey, that's smart. That's smart.
That's betting, baby.
Hey, that's Cam. That's teasing, baby. I got introduced to the tease this weekend. I fucking love that thing. I love it. I had a really good
You're
one.
good at picking them straight up. Don't do that. Just stay with it.
Oh, listen, I'm just adding shots to my bag, boss. I'm just adding shots to my bag because not everything's going to look great, you know? Not everything's going to look delicious. Sometimes you need to tease a little bit, get a little bit more on the back end from 2 shots and say, hey, you two are going to hit for sure. And I agree with Gumpy with what he just said. That's my official bet on this show of tonight is what Gumpy
You're doing
just
that
said.
tease as well?
I'm doing what Gumpy just said
Okay.
right there.
The Pat McAfee Show.
There will be no rules for our guests, for us, for the things we can talk about.
Speaking his mind
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions or my thoughts or anything like that.
while being relatable.
I haven't had that manufactured fake-ass celebrity that a lot of people have whenever they go on those big networks. I've had a chance to really build my crew, build my following, build my audience.
And ridiculous.
What am I supposed to do? So I'm supposed to look at something that I can definitely afford and say, nah. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
The Pat McAfee Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Hour 3 on this Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, October 6th. Kicks off on the other side of this twine beat drop. Joining us now is not only the Crimson Chin, a man who won a national championship with Ohio State and a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers, but also a man who last night, in a despicable fashion, threw 6 incomplete passes.
Come on.
A man who flexed on a camera as if he was to show that he's stronger than everybody else on earth. Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Rodgers. What's going on, bub?
Nice graphics there. I like that. This show's really picking up.
Hey, wait, we're going to put a little song behind that as well at some point. So there'll be a little music on your come in with the big pose, the whole thing. And we're really trying to become a real operation over here, Aaron. Let's talk
Spared
about.
no expense. I see.
Hey, let's talk about those 6 incompletions that you had last night. It really felt like you were just feeling it, huh? You were vibing last night in a beautiful fashion. And is this ball trick that got all around the internet last night, is that just standard operation for you? Because you and me, I think, are the only people that can do it, dude.
That's old hat, Pat. I've been doing that for years. It's just like certain things, you know. Every now and then they're finally looking for something. They're, oh my God, can you believe you can do this? It's like, did you not see what I was doing in college? I learned that in high school. 20 years.
What are we doing here? It's 2 decades of greatness, pal.
Where's AJ?
He's here.
He's here.
I'm right here. What's going on, man?
Crimson Chin, is that what you called him?
Yeah, is that it's a cartoon character or a superhero? What is it?
I'm not 100% sure, but a caller called you that, and I think we all agreed immediately on the spot, like, that is a great nickname for you. It should be maybe Scarlet because Ohio State, I guess.
Scarlet Chin.
But the Crimson Chin also just flows right off the tongue.
But Pat and the boy, he can't grow any facial hair, so what are you talking about?
I didn't know that.
And he's got a weak jaw. That's why he wishes he could.
Don't forget about his pack, too.
Oh, and he's got that baby peck, Aaron. I mean, if we remember, this guy maybe is the most inable human we've ever talked to on this show. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. Hey, Aaron, let's talk about last night, shall we, though? You go into a game.
Pat.
Davante Adams yesterday put out a tweet, says, hey, I know my body. It feels like I'm healthy. When you go into a game like last night, did you expect Davante Adams to play and then it turns out he doesn't? Or was it, hey, whoever we play with, even if it's Big Bob Tunyon, Indiana State Sycamore, we're just going to execute? Is that the mindset every single week, or do you expect some people to be on the field and then they're not?
Well, I think it's both ways, Pat. I think you see him at practice, you see what he's doing, and you're excited about him coming back. And then, obviously that was a decision that really didn't come down to what he was feeling, because I think he wanted to play. That was pretty obvious. Kind of wish he would have left that tweet up. Not sure if he got pressure to take it down or not, but I love Davante, and I'm not going to speak for him, but I will say that I definitely support him and back him 100%, and look forward to him coming back. When he's not out there, we got to figure some things out. Obviously, we did last night. I think Matt did a really nice job during the week of coming up with a plan that was a little different than we've done in the past. It was similar to what we did in Kansas City last year, with the amount of stuff we got the running backs involved with. When you have I said last night after the game, but Jamal Williams, who's our backup running back, who's super talented, but he had 8 catches for 95 yards. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable. And a lot of them were him split out. He caught a hole shot against cover 2. On a rail route. He caught a number of flat routes. He caught a screen ball, but he was a huge contributor for us. And then obviously Aaron Jones does so much for us. And then you got Big Bob Tunyon finally getting some opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
One of those nights. Sometimes you have those nights. You guys wouldn't know it because you guys weren't skilled players, but
wait a minute.
Sometimes everything kind of. There's no offense, Pat. I love you.
It sounded like it. You got to do it.
With all due respect.
Yeah. Anything worth
okay,
a velvet painting of a whale and a dolphin getting it on. Go ahead, please.
Sometimes the universe kind of comes together, and he had a touchdown when the 2 defenders ran into each other, and a touchdown where a guy tackled him. He did a beautiful somersault and got up, and nobody was around him. And next thing you know, he got 3 touchdowns. I was reminded the last 3 touchdown performance was by Jermichael Finley in 2011 at the Bears. And that game, he had one route he thought it was a run play, and then adjusted and made this unbelievable catch for a touchdown. One route he was on the outside and ran just a go, and they try and disguise cover 2, and nobody guarded him. And another route was like a scramble drill. So, it's funny how sometimes you can have a dominating performance and catch, 3 touchdowns or maybe just 1 touchdown. And sometimes you can just have a night where everything kind of falls together. It's nothing. It doesn't take anything away from Jermichael or Bobby, but it was a good night for Robert last night.
Hell yeah.
Hey, can you explain when you actually say the words hard count in your hard count and it works?
Was that trolling? That was definitely trolling. But it could have been hut go, I guess. But boy, if you said hard count, that might be the most swag thing I've ever heard somebody do in their entire life.
Look, there's been because there's no sound, really no ambient noise you can hear. There's been, people attempting to understand what I'm saying in my count. I saw that. No, why would I say hard count? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I did not say hard count.
Would have been
It's
cool.
like a couple years ago, we were playing a game, and JC was the center. This might have been a while ago. And he snapped the ball, or maybe it was Corey. I think it was JC, though. He snapped the ball and said, oh, shit, because he snapped over my head. And it came back, and, there was some video that said that, they had thought that I had said that. So I'm just here to set the record straight. I did not say hard count.
That's a heartbreaker. That is a heartbreaker right there.
Can you try it after the bye? I think you should work it in then.
Yeah, you're so good at hard counts.
Yeah, I'm open for suggestions. I like it when people tell me things to say in certain interviews or on the field if I need to. And we had some things last year that we said. That's what's interesting. They come with this thing that we said hard count. But last year we said some ridiculous things. At the line of scrimmage, like in our whenever we're kneeling the ball down, and nobody picked up on any of that stuff.
Well,
you got to ask Corey Lindsley for that. I'm not going to divulge what was said during those times. But if you ask Corey, he might tell you.
Yeah, but to be completely candid, and I think the reason why I've enjoyed you coming on this show every single week and the more you've been speaking is because the narrative about you is changing off the field. But on the field, the narrative about you last year was that you're washed up. Like, this guy can't play football anymore. And I found it very interesting. No, Ty never said that. No,
Never.
No.
Believe me, Aaron, I was on the front lines fighting people saying that.
And I don't know how often you watch. Like, I was on Get Up last year every single Monday. And
I don't watch that show.
Well, okay. Well,
I would maybe if you were on it now, but probably not.
I want to let you know, the Friday before I was on there, we were watching. And I think they picked like, hey, and now listen, I don't need your comment because I don't want you to be in hot water for anything you say, which tends to happen. But they said something along like, we would take Ryan Tannehill over Aaron Rodgers for our franchise for the next 10 years. And they ranked this whole thing. And I went on Get Up on Monday morning. And I literally stopped the entire conversation. And I said, at this table, Greeny, this is your fault. You are allowing people to basically say that Aaron Rodgers is a bad quarterback and I will not have it anymore. And then the whole conversation was like, he's bagged up, he's this. Did you hear that stuff? I would assume you did. You have to in the world that we're in, that you see that every single day. And do you think being a second year in your offense that you're currently in with LaFleur is a massive advantage to maybe what was happening last year?
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Every team is different. Every year is different. And, circumstances in any year which allow you to have more success or make it more difficult for success. Just kind of depends on the situation. It does help being the second year, for sure. I feel a lot more comfortable. But I sometimes laugh when people talk about, down years for me, because a lot of times down years for me are career years for most quarterbacks.
That was awesome. I am so happy you said that. Oh my God. That's just like, that is.
Yeah. Drop down.
That was awesome. Good for you, dude.
Hey, it's just the facts, bro.
Hey. You didn't make the rules. Hey, you didn't make the stats. These are just how it is. We're just reading them how it is. Hey, reality's tough, kids. Listen up.
What are you going to do?
It's a cold world. That was awesome.
Hey, Aaron, how do you say you don't see a lot? You didn't watch Get Up when Pat was on it, which is fine. But
ratings did go up. Just would like to be known.
Quick side note.
Everything goes up when Pat's on there. Facts.
I couldn't even hear it. It mutes me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, AJ.
Can you do the suck it in games, or is that a finable offense?
I don't know. Can you flip off somebody from the field?
Oh! As long as it's not caught on camera, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. There you go.
I just can't believe a man of your stature would really apologize after that.
Did he really? What do you mean he apologized?
There it is.
What do you mean he apologized?
I didn't apologize.
You had to do this super deep, heartfelt apology, didn't you?
Oh!
Instead of just saying, hey, look, it was an inside joke between me and my coach, and, if you saw it, you're offended by it, hey, whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, pretty much. I said, hey, I told other people, if you need to explain to your children what this is, I'm sorry, I have kids too. I got to teach them what it is too, because I have that picture on multiple coffee mugs around the house.
I have that coffee mug at the house too. Over there. Hey, thank you, Age.
I've heard you have a Picasso as well. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, he doesn't know he has it.
Those are expensive. Picasso, that's expensive, Pat.
I don't know if you're telling the truth.
I don't have one of those. I was hoping that I might, Age might serve some up for me, but.
Okay, so this is something that you don't know. I think you have one. I never forget. We'll change the subject. This is not an art show. I will not get into it. A guy paints things with.
Is that a Picasso behind you, the eagle and everything?
This. Hold on, this one here.
Yeah, that's not a Picasso?
No. Too much detail for Picasso.
Can you explain what a Picasso is, AJ? Can you please explain what a Picasso is?
Yeah, come on.
A free ad for the guy. Someone made this. He's an artist, I believe, in Australia who paints using all of his body.
He uses his
his
testicles, his genitals, his butt cheeks. I guess he uses everything. Yeah.
Butt cheeks clouds.
Do you have one of those, Aaron? I heard he sent you one. Did you not?
No, I don't have. I think AJ has one. I don't have one.
Oh, that's nice.
I do not have one. I know somebody that has one. I do not. But yeah, Pat, you can go. I know you have a question.
Aaron, you're an art collector because you have Bob Ross paintings, don't you? Do you have Bob Ross paintings? Are you an art collector, or is it just?
I would not say I'm an art collector. No, I think I have like 2 pieces of art in my entire house.
What do you do with all your money? I saw you bought that house in Malibu. You have like $7 zillion at this point. Do you have a cool collection of anything? Cars?
Hey, stay off the TMZ, Pat.
You bought a house. It's in Malibu. I've seen it. It's a very nice house, actually. We were trying to figure out how we could convince you to let us do a week of shows from out there, actually. That's how it all kind of started.
At this point, Ty's invited, and I'm not sure about the rest of you.
Oh, man.
No, just love, man. Look at Ty. He's still rocking every day, every time on there. He's rocking the shirt, mustache.
Hey, you should have
swagged out to the max.
This morning, he said that watching the game last night, because last night, from outside your locker room perspective, if we were a talking pundit head, it was a game that you guys could potentially struggle with, right? All your weapons are out, allegedly. Aaron Jones is a superstar, doesn't get talked about. Same with Jamal Williams and Big Bob Tunyon, I don't think enough people knew about. But a lot of injuries. You never know what's going to happen. The Falcons are a wounded animal at this point. Have to win, it felt like. They had to win for Dan Quinn for their job. So it felt like a game like, maybe this is one that they could potentially struggle with. Maybe not win by as much, but potentially have a struggle. This morning, Ty came in and was like, you know what? I got over that real quick after watching last night. We have a team this year is basically what you said, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I just said, when you're playing the way you are, it doesn't matter who. I mean, I don't care who's on the other side of the field. You guys can compete with and beat anybody, when you're playing like this. It's just as simple as that.
Has to feel pretty good for
and
you
the
guys.
Defense played great last night too.
Bingo.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I think there was a lot of uncertainty, even inside the building. Just when you have that many guys kind of making their first splash of plays. I mean, you're starting Darius Shepard, who's been, a guy who was cut a couple times, activated. Malik Taylor as well, getting an opportunity to play a lot of plays. Reggie Beggleton, Canadian football guy who was a star over there. Makes our practice squad, gets elevated to the active roster. He's going to play. Robert Tonyan, who, hadn't had a lot of big time success in the league before this year. Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainties, but we relied a lot on the running backs and tight ends. Obviously, having Jamal and Jonesy and Swerve and Robert last night with those performances, you expected them to pick up the slack. But the way they were playing us, I think they really wanted to take away the run game. They didn't disguise as much. It was a lot more pressure, a lot more man coverage, and we made them pay when we had opportunities.
Hey, on that first, I believe the first touchdown that old Bobby Tonyan caught, I think you guys went a little bunch, and he had a linebacker on him pre-snap, and then I think the guy lunged at him, probably tried to jam him up, and then he was picked, and it was over. Did you know pre-snap, was that something you were looking at, that matchup?
It was 3rd and 14, which was interesting. Not sure what coverage is going to happen. The previous or a later third down, they ran like kind of a fence defense where they we're kind of all stacked around the first down marker. We ran a screen pass to actually set up the 4th and 2 that we converted and make it into points there in the first half. But that first touchdown to Robert, I actually adjusted protection because it looked like 54 or the safety were going to come from the left. And at the snap, the safety came and looked like he, picked the linebacker a little bit, and they were in a 1-high behind it. And Bobby was just, for NFL terms, that's wide open. So that was, a fortunate one for him. The second one was just an oldie but a goodie play that we ran for a long time around here, where he's just kind of coming, we're in a 3-by-1. He's coming from the field to the boundary and just trying to outrun the linebacker at that spot, with Jonesy releasing to the flat right away. And Marquez had an inline crosser to that side. That was just a kind of an easy one. But the line, I don't think the line, and maybe Ty is giving those guys some love. But the line, I think, deserves a lot of credit. We've played 4 games. There are 3 sacks. I ran into one last night on a very unathletic play. Other than that, we've had 2 kind of protection, miss IDs for sacks. So they've really, really blocked their ass off.
On the trend, I mean, you did look kind of unathletic with that whole toe getting jammed in the ground thing.
You don't have to. That wasn't for you to jump on there. That statement could have just stood by itself.
I was worried about you, dude.
You're feeling a little tinged, maybe, because I said you guys weren't skilled players. So go ahead.
No, I was worried. I was very, very worried about you. Literally, by the way, this is how good you take care of your body. Because if that was my body with what happened after you rammed your toe into the ground and then your left leg kind of hyperextended, I would be down. So I was very worried. I think a lot of us were very worried. Yeah. And then you go right back on the field. It was like, of course, the son of a bitch doesn't feel anything. Of course, that is what's going on. But on the trend of watching the defense, with what you just said about the safety and linebacker and the pick, and he's wide open, they had 2 hurt safeties. And then I think one of the replacement safeties got hurt as well. And we talked about this. And you were 20 for 20 throwing to tight ends and backs. And I know they weren't all down the middle of the field, but they're on the outside. That has to be something that as soon as you see, I assume you and LaFleur have a conversation, or is it just you both are on the same page? Like, hey, there seems to be a position group that we can target right now if we have to.
Well, I don't know if it's that. I think that a lot of times that's the prevailing thought, but that's not an actual ability at times to do. If you're like, oh, well, how do we, getting a safety and coverage who's playing high is not the easiest thing to do. And again, as much as they were playing some man coverage, they were bringing some pressure behind that. So it wasn't like you had these young safeties in a ton of coverages. What we did feel like, with as much disguise as they wanted to do, there might be some opportunities for some hole shots. I mean, they're playing cover 2 in between the corner and the safety who has the deep half. There might be an opportunity to hole shot. Now, what we didn't expect, and what doesn't happen hardly in the league at all, and in all the hole shots I've thrown over the years, I hit a hole shot to Aaron Jones, running back, and Jamal Williams, running back. That just never really happens, and the
Why is that? Why does it never happen? Why is it so weird?
Well, first, you're just not – you don't have the opportunity a lot of times to stick it in that hole.
Got to do it. got to just ram it in there.
When you do get the opportunity,
because it's a tight hole. It's a tight hole there. You gotta.
I love that. If you find that, that's,
yeah. By the way, there it goes again. There's another one. There's another one.
You don't get a lot of hole shot opportunities, and you definitely don't get them with running backs. So that was a rarity for us. And we're just glad we found those holes and got it in there.
Bingo.
Yeah, you plugged them right up. It was a good job by you.
It was kind of cool to watch.
Everything looked effortless, I guess. But now I want to know what's this bye week like for you, man? Like, you can't leave. You have to go in and what? Like, what's the schedule? What did they tell you? You have to go get tested at the facility every day?
Yeah, every day. Yeah, we were in there this morning. So COVID test every day, and I don't know. There's some weird language around what you can and can't do, but for the most part, they don't want you doing a whole lot. I mean, nothing really changes. It's not like we have the opportunity to do a whole lot. But I don't know. I just think that at some point you got to let adults be adults and make decisions, understand the consequences. We can't hold everybody by the hand. I understand we're trying to get to the finish line, playing 16 games, but I do miss the opportunity to, enjoy a bye week, recharge. I mean, I'll still try and, do that. But a lot of the times that involves, like, getting out of town and enjoying some time away. But this is 2020, and this is the reality of our situation.
I was thinking about this for the Steelers fans, and I don't think a lot of ex-players ever talk about how important the bye week is to not only a player but a team. It's almost like an off-season happens, to be honest. You come back, guys are like, what did you do? How was it? It's like you just kind of get out of your same routine. It's always good to do that, to jump back in to feel refreshed. And I think that was the biggest thing, my takeaway about the Titans game, Steelers game being postponed, is the Steelers players didn't even know they were on a bye week until Friday of said bye week. And I was like, that is quite a kick in the ass for the Steelers. And it's, I guess, with the way you're describing it, though, a bye week doesn't even really matter at this point. Everybody kind of has to do the same exact thing. Like, what is it? It's minus Zoom calls? You're just not doing Zoom calls for the week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many coaches are going to, use up as much time as they can. I know we're working tomorrow, and then there's some optional things the rest of the week. But who knows? I mean, coaches might have the freedom or the ability to do Zoom meetings and have workouts all week. So it's not much of a bye week. Definitely nothing compared to what we've had over the years. But again, this is a reality we're living in. Obviously, we're trying to get the season in. We've had a couple scares already, but it looks like Tennessee had no positive tests for 2 days now in a row, which is good. And hopefully we keep that momentum going.
Bingo.
Could you see this getting to a point where we start getting scared as the season's nearing the end and they decide to do a playoff bubble?
Oh, yeah, a bubble would be awesome, Aaron. Put you guys all in one big hotel, huh? Kind of lock you guys in. Here we go. We'll bring barbers in like the NBA. You get your hair cut. Hey, it'll be great. By the way, you have to pay for all room service that you use.
Yeah, I won't be a big fan of that.
Oh, it'd be awesome if they made you do it. It would be awesome.
No, Pat, come on. Don't put that energy out there.
I'm just saying, like, from an outsider looking in, we would enjoy the, the cliche answers about how.
You want to see people, like, frustrated and struggling and claustrophobic. And
I know
that's what you want to see. That's what gets you.
Get
you going, huh, Pat?
No, I just like to see how people react in those situations. For instance, I like to see how people adapt and overcome. I like to see the greats rise to the top, like what's happening in the NBA. I like to see how Aaron Rodgers would handle a situation better than everybody else. That's what I like to see. I actually like to see humans strive. I like to see them thrive. I like to see them dominate as opposed to what you just said right there. That's unbelievable.
You're a big fan of human testing, huh?
Oh,
these control groups and.
No.
Yeah.
No, but that would be terrible because you guys would have to say how awesome it is and how lucky you are to do it, and everybody would be so miserable. So.
I'm glad we got this show so we can get the real shit out there.
Yeah. All right, in 2 weeks, how far will you start thinking about Todd Bowles' defense this far out or no?
No.
When would you? Next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a week to look at what we did the first 4 weeks and, do a lot of self-scout. Bye week is really for self-scout. We'll have plenty of time. The whole week to get ready for an opponent is plenty of time. Even when you're looking at we've done a Super Bowl. Age wasn't a skilled player, but he was there for that one.
Congrats, you got your one, by the way.
A week is long enough to prepare. The first week is really about self-scout and looking at what you're doing. We'll take a look at the TV copies of games and some of the calls I've been making and the cadences and the variations and that. And then we'll get to Todd Bowles and the Bucs after that.
Huh.
Do you game plan? Like, I guess when you're thinking of going up against the defense, are you thinking of the coordinator or are you thinking more of like individual players?
Yeah, players. I think it's part of both. But you and I have had conversations. Todd's not playing. We're not going against him, but we're going against his mind and his thoughts and the strategy being played out with the defensive players. So I don't have a lot of familiarity with their personnel, but I'll have plenty of time to start looking at it this weekend and being in next week. And I'm not sure who they're playing this week, but I'll try and catch that game and see what they look like and then get on some film.
They got the Bears Thursday night, by the way. You'll be able to check that out soon.
Perfect.
Yeah, very good. By the way,
are you calling that game? You should.
No, I wasn't invited. But although you're playing against Todd Bowles' defense, your real opponent next week is Tom Brady. So how are you going to beat Tom Brady? Are you going to blitz him? Are you going to get a pick? What are you going to do, Aaron?
I just can't wait for all those questions. We've talked a lot about just dumb media questions. That's one of them and it doesn't stop. It really doesn't stop. I was watching Lamar and Patrick being asked about and it's just the same answer every time. I mean, you just want to be, hey, by the way, I'm not playing against him. I'm playing against that defense. He's playing against our defense. Do I need to say this again?
Yeah, but then you're an asshole and you're smug and you don't appreciate the media or whatever.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
I appreciate certain members of the media.
Amen.
Hey.
Yeah. You too, Kenny Mayne.
Oh, I saw you did an interview with him last night. It was a good interview, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You had a great performance. It was very charming. It was like, Aaron Rodgers, good guy tour.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So you said you self-scout. What are you going to self-scout? I threw 6 interceptions? What do you just played best football I think any human's ever played football potentially for the first 4 weeks. What do you say to yourself? I've been doing better at this. We've been doing better at this. What is the self-scout you think? What is it? You guys are scoring 1,000 points. I think maybe don't self-scout anything. Maybe just don't even look at it. Just be like, hey, let's just keep it. Like when I'm hot at a craps table, for instance, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm like, let's just keep riding it. It feels like that is now. Granted, there's a lot more skill involved in what you guys are doing, but it feels like
take your craps table approach to my bye week.
Yeah. Bingo.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. I won't look at anything then. Pat told me.
There's
We're
some
good.
there's some media member waiting for you to mess up so they could say Aaron Rodgers did tell Pat McAfee last week that he was not going to watch any film because they were riding a heater like Pat was at the craps table in Detroit, Michigan. Like that's a real
Who do you
thing.
think it's going to be? Bob Domofsky or
Are we doing this right now? Because Bleacher Report got you last week. Did you see after you told us about you joking with Matt LaFleur, basically saying that your relationship with Matt LaFleur is so good that you actually act as if your speaker doesn't work and you go like, oh, I can't hear, and you're just joking around with him? They took that completely out of context. It was like Aaron Rodgers tells Matt LaFleur his speaker isn't working so he can call his own plays, and they called you a savage and all that shit. I'm like, I believe this is taken out of context.
Yeah, seriously, is anybody surprised? Is anybody surprised?
No.
All
I guess not.
The fucking media does is write stories to get clicks. So it doesn't matter. Like, I can give a long answer about something, and they can take a blip of it and write a story about it that has nothing to do with what I was saying. Nobody's going to take the time to, unless you're watching this live, to listen to this entire interview. They're going to take pieces of it. They don't, and if I'm not doing this in person, you can't see, facial expressions, or if you're not listening to it, if you're just reading a transcript, you can't hear voice inflection and tone and inference. So that's just the way it is. That's why I love doing this, because I have a platform with you guys and the boys to say whatever I want, to speak the truth, and shit like that's going to happen. It doesn't matter. I don't spend any extra time about it. I find it comical because then we can bring it up and be like, this is what we were talking about. Here it is.
Hey, so how do you know what to believe then, A-Rod? Like when you're reading other things and websites and stuff outside of football, how do you know? How does anybody know?
I think you just have to be skeptical in general. I think that's having an open mind, is being skeptical and not just believing everything at face value, or believing everything that your Twitter and social media tells you. I think people need to remember, there's a lot of interesting documentaries about this stuff. Cambridge Analytica. If you watch that documentary about the 2016 election, and you understand how many data points there are out there about us, we are being constantly fed things that confirm our own bias already. It's called confirmation bias. It's when they feed information to you that hits you in the areas that you like, and just continues to further the things that you believe. And you think that you're like learning, but you're actually just being fed information that keeps you on one side, and that's the division that's created. And I'm not a fan of it. I think you should read both sides of stories. You should read both sides books, that tackle both sides of issues. You should be very skeptical about the things you read, and do your own research, and not just listen to something because somebody told you, some blue check mark on Twitter told you to believe something. You should, have an open mind and do your own research and feel into what you think is the truth.
Let's go! Hey, you were preaching right there, sir. You were preaching right there. That good stuff right there. You were preaching.
I'm going to give you one per week. One per week that the boys can clip and put it out there and piss some people off, and make people think that I'm on some ivory tower, acting like I got it all together.
Oh, it must be nice up there. Must be nice. Let's get a call. Do you mind if we take a phone caller real quick?
Yeah, I guess. Just one.
That's my quarterback.
I also asked, do you mind? And he said, yes. I guess. So I was like, I don't know. That was a bad question by me. I'll get better. I'll be a better member of the media later. Let's go to Jake in New York. Jake, what's going on, bub?
Hey, what's going on, Aaron? First of all, I want to thank you for taking this call. Some of my greatest memories are sitting on the couch with my dad watching the Packers over the years. So I want to personally thank you for
thank you, Aaron. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate that.
And then here's my question. I always appreciate your intellect, and I think you're a really sharp guy. So I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question. So you come out of high school, you're 6 foot, which is a decent size. So you go on to Butte Community College. Now, let's say that the hypothetical is, let's say you didn't go on and throw for 2,400 yards. You didn't throw for 28 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions, and no one from Cal comes knocking at your door. What would you be up to? Like, what job would you have? Where would you have gone to school? What would you be doing now?
Great question, Jake. So let's say you stunk at football. What would you be doing? That's what Jake wanted to know, man. That's what he wanted to know.
Jake, I don't know, man. I mean, hypothetical questions are interesting because they're not
Jake, I don't know, man.
In order to give you a realistic answer to this question, I have to think about things that don't really come to my mind. Let me just say this real quick. And again, not everything you read is the truth. So part of my story, and I feel strongly about, is being an underdog is also that the facts are the facts. And I wasn't 6 feet coming out of high school. I was 6'2", 195. I wasn't this like shrimp of a dude who didn't deserve to like get looks from college. I just didn't have anybody looking at me and didn't go to any camps. That was part of my story. And the reason I say that is because I never lost confidence in myself. So the idea that I would not have played well at Butte never entered my mind. The idea that I would not have gone to D1 never entered my mind. Now, the idea of the NFL was a different concept. I didn't think about that until I sat in Coach Tedford's office in 2003, and we had a face-to-face conversation about I was struggling in camp, and he said, "You're stressing out too much. You need to understand you're going to have a great career here and then a great career in the NFL." And that was really the first time I ever thought about being a pro. At the time, it was just about how do I be the best player I can be at the level that I'm at. And that kind of reignited this dream that I had when I was 6 years old, watching Joe Montana on the drive in the Super Bowl take his team 92 yards to win the game. So it's tough to answer your question, Jake, because I never had a thought that I wouldn't be doing this. Now, I feel like intellectually that there are a lot of things that I was interested in, whether it's the law or
lawyer Aaron would have been awesome. Lawyer Aaron. Imagine you in a court.
I do enjoy a good debate. AJ knows that. But it's hard to go down that hypothetical journey because I never believed I would be doing anything but this.
The law. What about a cop?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, I thought about the law and then maybe the military. Just because, I have a lot of respect for the men and women in uniform. But.
You know how much reading it is? You won that Jeopardy, obviously. Everybody's like, yeah, this is the smartest guy. I would like to see you on regular Jeopardy because I think you would do well on there as well. And your ability to perform under pressure, I think, is a pretty big part of Jeopardy with hitting the button at the right time. I think Jeopardy James Holzhauer taught us all that, so I think you would be great there. Were you always a super smart individual, like in class, academically? Were you a super high-scoring, well-grade, all that shit, ACT, SAT, all that stuff?
Yeah, in 7th grade, I won the Super Speller Award.
Whoa! Oh! Wait until you hear your intro next week on this show, dude.
Very proud because in 6th grade, I was in a spelling bee and I spelled pneumonia incorrectly.
That P will get you
silent.
To go from 6th grade, the devastation of forgetting the silent P, to being Super Speller in 7th grade and getting a certificate that I was so embarrassed to get that I dropped under the bleachers. True story. I really am proud about that. But yeah, I was always a good student. I didn't get a non-A, so I had all A's until my sophomore second semester. I got a B in one of my classes.
Wow, stupid.
And then I got some worse grades my junior and senior year, but I was always a good student.
Nice. You ever do that?
The whole shit?
Could you do that, bub? Huh?
That's really good, Pat. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, did you see Mason wearing the shirt?
Yes, I did. By the way, didn't want to bring it up because I got a lot of heat on the internet for him wearing that shirt and then ball going left on the extra point, which Mason never does. So everybody started blaming me. I actually had to put out a tweet that said
windy though. It was super windy. It was a Lambeau game. It was super windy.
It did feel windy, and I saw the flags moving as well. That didn't affect you at all. Is Lambeau normally a windy place? I've only played there a couple times, and it was very calm evenings when I was there. Normally super windy?
We usually get a decent amount of wind, and it swirls too. So you got to look opposite the flag. So if the flags in the north end are facing north, it's probably the wind's going to be going towards our tunnel.
Oh, you shouldn't have told anybody that. I mean, that is a little piece of information right there. Ladies and gentlemen.
You can feel it on the field. That's not like insider information or anything, Pat.
Do you have any inside information you'd like to give out on this Super Aaron Rodgers Tuesday as we're wrapping up right now?
No, I feel like I've dropped some nuggets, and I can just go on with my day and feel good about the time.
Yeah, not a bad little Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who's probably going to win the MVP this year and 7th grade Super Speller champion, Aaron Rodgers. Thank you, Aaron. Cheers, man. Did you watch Ted Lasso yet?
No. I
haven't. Bye week. It's a good time.
Here you go.
Bye week. I got time. I don't have to look at any self-scouts, and I can watch Ted Lasso.
Yeah, because you're hot, bro. You're on the craps. Just keep it rolling. Everybody's celebrating.
Baby. Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate you. Have a good one, Aaron.
All right, see you guys.
See ya. What a
you,
legend, Aaron. Hey, that guy's awesome, dude.
That was great, man.
Good nuggets.
You said he was your favorite teammate or whatever last week whenever we asked. And a lot of people took that tweet and was like, oh, remember when everybody said Aaron Rodgers was a terrible teammate and a bad guy and everything like that?
Yeah.
I mean, unless he's just completely 180 of the type of human he's always been, it feels like a lot of people got it wrong about Aaron Rodgers for a long, long time. And I would assume this type of situation he's in now where he's still balling and he's getting a chance to talk and he's a lot more comfortable doing so, it has to be such a good feeling to be Aaron Rodgers right now.
Yeah, you would think. I get nervous for him. Like, man, how do you keep this up? How do you keep playing as well as you are? But I watched him do it for 9 years. Or I was there 9. I watched him do it for 7. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Hey, just a quick little nugget here. My bad years are normally career years for other guys. So let's go ahead and fucking back it down a little bit.
Yep.
That was awesome, dude. That was the suck it sign he gave
real
on the show right there.
Yeah.
Ty, I think you got invited to the house in Malibu too, which is awesome. Listen, this is just like when Nick Moraldo had to go out to John Daly's house.
right. Yeah.
You'll just be a correspondent from there. That's awesome news
Hey,
for us.
tell me when, Raj. I will book the tickets right now, pal.
Yeah, you'll probably walk out there if you had
If
to.
I have to, yeah.
Yeah,
I
you will, Ty.
I will.
And just like that caller said from New York, Ty told us very early in this whole thing, Aaron Rodgers has provided more happiness in my life than a lot of the close people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I would die for that man if I had to.
I would still take a bullet for him right in between the eyes if I had to.
And I would assume Packers fans are excited that they're learning a little bit of a different side about Aaron, about him off the field. But to find out he's just as awesome off as he is on is pretty cool, I think, for everybody. A lot of tweets coming from people that hated him, that say they hate this segment because they're starting to like him a little bit is a problem. 40 minutes into the hour, we have to take a break. On the other side, we'll take some phone calls and more. This is McAfee and Hawk, Tuesday, October 6th, 2020.
He's saying don't go off the top, it's too shallow.
All you're going to hear this stadium do is they put the big paw up, they start shaking it, they go, whoa. Yeah, he loves the defensive side of the ball. He said yesterday to me that this is a blue-collar team. They win it on special teams. They have 5 block kicks this season. The defensive side of the ball, Lynch leads the Big 12 in sacks. But also on the offensive side, Denzel Mims is an absolute animal. He is a weapon. Charlie Brewer, the quarterback from Lake Travis. His dad was a quarterback in Texas. Yeah. His grandpa was a quarterback in Texas. And the people here in Waco just so happen to get a chance to see Charlie Brewer on a daily basis. Hey. Yeah, boomer here is going to mean a little bit different than what it means on the internet currently. And hopefully here in Baylor, they hope they're not hearing a lot of boomer sooner. Everybody wants to be a punter, including quarterbacks. If I was a quarterback, I'd want to be a punter as well. 0 yards on that punt. It's an embarrassing situation. The Dak dance that gets on national television has led to a lot of losses, but you got to respect the hips being able to. Good to go. What am I going to make for college game day? Well, I want to make something creative. I want to make something fun. No, to hell with it. I don't like OU. It's so thick. Look how thick that thing is. That's years and years of patience. You're heading right for the boat. Right now? Okay, let's do it. We are out here on the Brazos River, which you can take a boat to the game. One of the only stadiums in the country that you can do that. It's beautiful out here. A lot of people would say, this is the last time I'm going to be on game day. The last time I allegedly did what I'm about to do, I ended up in a jail cell. Let's go! Bad decision. The boot kickers are getting way down here. A lot higher than I thought.
You look like Ric Flair.
was a sellout, by the way. That was beautiful.
Do we have any other shirts? Yeah, hold on.
You need to go get changed before you get sick.
Great work, Russia. I'm actually not that cold. Hey, I went for it. My chest hurts. It was like 5 feet. I was standing there. That's full commitment, by the way. In 2016, Canadips began crafting the pouch and mouth for California's recreational market. They were no strangers to the industry, and their blue-collar roots made them familiar with tobacco dip. Putting the CBD in the dip was just a natural evolution, a CBD dip. The experience with chewing tobacco as a delivery method seemed like the perfect solution for a new tobacco-less product. We couldn't believe it hadn't been done, they said. It was a simple concept, but the grind to develop the product was not easy. They traveled the world partnering with a food chemist whose life work was the key to unlock it all. Canadips sourced rare and specialized machines to bring the pouch to reality. Through the journey, Canadips created something more than just a pouch. They created a way to live a tobacco-free lifestyle. Now you can try Canadips tobacco-less free products for the first time. Go to CanadipsCBD.com and use promo code LIPBOOMERS for 15% off your first order of tobacco-free pouches. That is CanadipsCBD.com, CanadipsCBD.com, and use promo code LIPBOOMERS for 15% off your first order of tobacco-free patches.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. McAfee and Hawk here, Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. Aaron Rodgers saying that a down year for him is a career year for other quarterbacks is going to get a bazillion views today on the internet, so we're very thankful for that. I love that he was comfortable enough to say that, though. Nobody would ever say that. People don't say that, even though it's 100% true, and I'm so thankful he did, AJ.
Really? Are people like... You don't think people would back that up?
Oh, no, they would.
They will.
No, it's facts.
No, they absolutely would. And that's why it's so awesome that he did it, because it's like, yeah, some bitch is right. I mean, what do you want to say about it? In all these years, the only thing Aaron Rodgers has been talked about is just being this no fun, smug, standoffish, bad teammate guy. And then now I think everybody's like, you know what? This guy has been painted in the wrong light for far too long, and he's really good at football. It feels like there's a real momentum behind the Aaron Rodgers potentially for president campaign that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if he teams up with The Rock, there'll be an unstoppable force.
Well,
but Aaron mentioned it, don't you think, though, Pat?
The Rock,
presidents.
Yeah. The Rock and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, which one's going to be the president then? That's a real, and I don't know what's
co-presidents maybe.
Well, when you got two presidents, it means you got no president. It's like quarterback. You can't have two quarterbacks. But I love Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. I'll say it. There's not, I love Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays.
Favorite day of the week.
Too.
Well, Pat, don't you think part of it is that what he was explaining? Like, he's like, okay, unless you're watching this live, what he was saying and listening live and seeing his facial expressions, that's the only way to really, truly understand it. And if you read a transcript, it's different. Also, like when you take it out of context and just clip it, little things here and there, that's what people have been doing forever. And that's what sports media does. And they should probably, I guess, at times. But it takes some time to actually go in and see what someone is like. So I think he likes having a platform where he can actually speak long form.
Sports Center tweeted out a picture with the quote, right? And they go, "It's just facts, bro." And then it says, "I sometimes laugh when people talk about down years for me, because a lot of times down years for me are career years for most quarterbacks," which is exactly what he said. I think he said it both in jest and in real life. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that this is and everybody, by the way, it's not like, oh, this guy, everybody's like, yeah, well, he is right.
He's got a point.
That guy has a point there. Let's get to the phones here before we wrap up hour 3 here on Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio, Channel 82. Let's go to Gross in Philadelphia. What's going on, Gross?
Hey, Pat, how you doing?
Not too shabby. Great to hear your voice again, Gross. What do you want to talk about, pal?
I just wanted to bring up the topic of Stidham coming in last night, slinging the ball with confidence on that first drive. Then he throws an absolute fucking dime to Edelman, hits him square in the hands, and it's an interception. Do we think there should be a stat that is charged against receivers, tight ends, or running backs when they get hit square in the hands on a ball they should catch and be charged with a turnover?
It is interesting because it's like blocked kicks go as misses for the kicker, but sometimes an offensive line just lets the guy come in and just basically catch it right off the foot. A deflection turnover is something very interesting, should be talked about because that does affect quarterback stats and obviously how much they're paid. But I don't know if anybody's going to jump on the Julian Edelman drop ball, it's his interception stat train. I just don't know if anybody's going to jump on that. AJ.
I've actually talked to quarterbacks like the last 15 years, and they brought this up at times. Like, hey, there should be a stat where it's not on the quarterback if it is. I'm like, yeah, but who's making that judgment whether it's a catchable ball or not?
Why can't we just put it in a parenthesis? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you
these are real picks, and maybe put them in the same category as those end of game picks where you just throw it up in the end zone, or end of half where you're trying to make a play.
Yeah. So the main number will be the amount of actual picks that's on that person, and then in the parentheses would be on that person and others, amount of turnovers caused. So then it's like, okay, he has 8 picks, but 12 in the thing. It's like, well, they have 3 drops and overthrows and 1 deflection right out of the pocket that was not his fault. That would actually be a pretty good idea. And there's enough analytics and stat people that could go through that like this. There's probably an algorithm that could watch the game and just be like, bam, 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 and get that stat figured out stat.
Jimmy Winston's been calling for this for 10 years, I believe. Yeah. I mean, he's wanted this stat for quite some time.
And he has eyes for the first time. And
look out.
And who knows what's going to happen with him after this year. Is he the quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints after what happened with Taysom Hill with that rough turnover right there? Is that what Sean Payton wants to see? Is Taysom Hill the guy? Is that why in the fourth quarter games that they're beating the shit out of teams, Taysom Hill takes over the helm? Even so much so that he's talking to the ref, giving the timeout signal while Drew Brees is still on the field, kind of giving Taysom Hill the reins a little bit whenever they're up by a lot? Or are they just waiting to see if that's the case, and why not put Jameis Winston in there if you want to try him out? I don't know. Great questions. TBD down there in Noya.
I guess so. Yeah, you just went through a lot there.
My brain just started cooking because I remember watching a game against the Lions, and Taysom Hill was calling timeouts, and Drew Brees was sitting on the other side. I was like, this is very interesting here. They're just kind of like, here, let's see if he can be a quarterback or not.
It is very weird to watch. And although Drew obviously is never like, he plays the role as he says all the right things about the Taysom Hill situation, I guess. I'm not speaking on whatever, but like he handles it well, but it would be awful. Do you want to be Drew Brees and get taken out of the game for Taysom Hill?
For an RPO, and then while you're on the field, you're at wide receiver or whatever. You just had your best game, by the way, of the year. Maybe let's go ahead and pile it on a little bit. Let's keep this thing going. We threw a lot more deep shots because we heard what people were saying last week. People were mocking your arm. Sean Payton's like, well, we're going to put that to rest this weekend. Throw a little bit more. I think they threw more 15-plus yard balls than they had all year just in the first half, I think, against the Lions or whatever. But, yeah, it's a very interesting situation. But I think everybody in New Orleans knows the deal. Drew's probably done after this year. Next year, they got to see who's next. And Sean Payton has said on a very regular basis, Taysom Hill is the guy. He views him as, what, Steve Young?
Steve Young.
Steve Young, he said. So I guess you get him some reps.
Yeah, I mean, Taysom is an absolute stud. Nobody knows until he's in there as like the week 1 starter and he has a full season to see if he is the franchise guy.
How come we're not talking about how good of a blocker Matt Ryan is?
Seriously.
Hey, Matt Ryan, not good at football right now.
And Hoyer.
Feels like Matt Ryan is an old quarterback that has made a lot of money in the NFL and is nowhere near the level of the other old quarterbacks that have made the amount of money that he makes.
Yeah, he's weird because he'll put up giant numbers at times. If you look at his stat line, it's always packed, but then you watch him play. The ball comes out of his hand kind of weird right now, I feel like. It almost soft. Like, I don't know, it doesn't come out the same as a lot of guys.
And he is like an older quarterback that has made a lot of money that I think he's won an MVP, right? He has an MVP. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you look around at the class of humans that are roughly his age, accomplished what he has accomplished, made the amount of money that he's made, he is very far down there, I think, at this point. Not saying that he was before, but it feels like right now. And that might just be the Falcons being a dumpster fire. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe Matt Ryan is a part of the dumpster fire, and whenever they rebuild this whole thing, he's gone. He's done for.
Last night they said a stat. There's only 3 quarterbacks with 100 wins, an MVP, and no Super Bowl. It's Dan Marino, Frank Tarkenton, and your Matt Ryan.
Fran Tarkenton.
Frank.
Old Frankie Tarkenton.
I'm more of a Frank Tarkenton guy.
Oh, Frankie Tarkenton.
Who's the other? There's a backup quarterback. I butchered. Farrat?
Gus Farrat.
There it is.
Let's go to Billy.
Joe Farrat.
Let's go to Billy over there in Minnesota. Billy, what's going on? Fucking
Hey,
Frank
Pat.
Tarkenton.
I was just wondering if what you think about C.J. Beathard. I'm a big Iowa guy, and at the end of a Niners game, he put the team in a really good situation, going 14 for 19.
So interesting. Nick Mullins looked very bad, where Nick Mullins had looked great in the past, and then C.J. Beathard comes in there, gets an opportunity, and starts slinging it a little bit. And that's kind of like that freshness, resurgence of somebody new being in, I think. But C.J. Beathard, as an Iowa guy, Ty, you got to be pumped to see him out there slinging the rock to Kittle a little bit.
Love C.J. Beathard. He is a great quarterback. He should have been starting over Nick Mullins. And like you said, him and Kittle are very, very tight. And he also had a very tough offseason. His brother got murdered and stuff like that. So anytime, like if he comes up and has a good year this year, I'd really enjoy seeing that.
Yeah, good for C.J. Beathard. Hopefully he'll continue to get to play. Hopefully he'll keep the ball. Go Hawkeyes.
Go Hawks, baby.
Go Hawks. Go Hawks. Hey, Ohio State football, what, starts this weekend?
No, not even close. Like the 26th, 24th.
Oh,
Pretty close, AJ.
Still a couple more weeks.
Pretty close.
Because everybody else is playing already.
Yeah, what are we doing? They announced 12 weeks ago that they were going to play.
And then, by the way, there's no room for error. They backed it all the way up to the point where they only have 8 weeks for 8 games. Everywhere else has had to postpone games. Every other league has had to postpone games, but not the Big Ten. They're setting it up for success for sure. That's all they care about.
Yeah, hey, you know when I mentioned something about an extra game, and I didn't really understand what was going on with the Big Ten? You probably have no idea, no recollection. This was last week, I think. I guess afterwards, the weekend of the Big Ten championship, those two teams will play, but then the rest of the teams will play each other, like based on your ranking. And if you already played them that season, they'll drop you down and you each play the team below you or whatever.
Well, that's fun because they're not going to make it to that point because there's going to be games postponed and suspended, and they're not going to be able to tell who goes in the Big Ten championship game anyways because there's inevitably going to be a COVID outbreak that has happened basically in every college.
Well said.
Bingo. Aaron Rodgers Tuesday wraps up in 9 seconds here on Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. We can't thank you enough for listening. We're back tomorrow. The legend, Chris Mad Dog Russo, is next. Oh, nailed it. Feel good about it. Hey, thanks, Colin.
You have a good night.
You have a good night, Colin.
You have a good night.
Hey, see you, Colin.
See you now.
No, Colin, you have a good night.
Okay, man.
No.
You have a good night.
Have a better
okay?
night. No.
No.
We insist. Colin. All right, I'm done with him. He's only in the right ear. That was the guy who was like punking us last week. We kind of get along with him this week. It's kind of an interesting turn of the relationship. He is our connect from Sirius. He has a very difficult job. He has to make sure we're on the air at the right time, off the air at the right time, counts us down. I very much understand that. But last week, he was a bit aggressive, AJ.
Mouthy.
Yeah, he was. And by the way, I think many would say that about you, me, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now our relationship is going swimmingly, AJ. It's going.
What do you mean, mouthy? What would he do?
Talk.
You're talking now.
Screaming in my ear. It's like, yo, okay, maybe I don't want to fucking talk immediately, pal. Okay, maybe let the beat drop for a second, you know?
You're live.
Colin's basically talking to us like we're a bunch of fucking idiots who've never been on the radio before, and I'm okay with that because a lot of people judge me like that, but I don't need this guy who I've never met before just screaming in my ear. Like, hey, take it easy, pal. But
I'm glad you made up with him.
Well, I don't think we have, by the way. That was me telling him everything that I thought. But it does feel as if we're in a much better spot this week. We're getting along a lot better this week.
I'm also guessing he got reprimanded, you know?
No, there's a chance because we did talk about it on the air while he was yelling. I was like, this fucking guy.
Get your shit together, pal. All right.
Let's go to the phones, AJ, shall we? Let's go to Dustin in Georgia. Oh, sure. Dustin in Georgia. Didn't he call yesterday?
He did. He was the Falcons fan.
And he said that just put him out of his misery. The Falcons are making him absolutely miserable or whatever. Dustin in Georgia, you got to feel a lot better after last night's absolute thrashing of the Falcons.
Yeah, they fucking stink. I don't understand it, dude. What
do you mean?
Well, what does it take to get Dan Quinn fired? I've been fired for way less important jobs. It doesn't make any sense. This dude is garbage. How did he get a defensive coordinator job in the first fucking place?
Okay.
Where did Pete Carroll find this guy at?
Yeah, man. I think he came from Seattle, right? He had to
did
leave.
do well.
Boom.
He did do well there.
And there was a lot of success up there, but now it has looked very bad. But this past offseason, he fired every assistant coach that they had, started anew just with him at the top, and it seems like it's not working, Dustin. Is that your view?
What? Nothing Dan Quinn's done is working, including Matt Ryan. Why didn't they fire him? That should have been the first person they got rid of.
Dustin. He's a miserable Falcons fan.
Who are you going to bring in, though?
Jameis
It's easy to say fire him, but who are you going to bring in?
You're talking about Dan Quinn?
No, I'm saying Matt. He said, "Why don't we fire Matt Ryan?" Okay, cool. Who do you want to plug in there to take to get that production back?
Matt Schaub.
Who is that? The backup? Matt Schaub is the backup. You know what I saw? You know what I saw this weekend that was very interesting. Case Keenum's backing up Baker in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Case Keenum was with Stefanski, so Case Keenum, good vet, I would assume, for Baker and everything like that. But I wonder if there was ever a thought by Baker, like, if I start struggling, potential magic with Case Keenum with Stefanski being in it. I thought that was very interesting to see him on the sideline. He's got this rugged beard going, it's like a different Case Keenum. I didn't even know he was over there. When I was watching, I was like, damn, that's an interesting.
Don't you think coaches and execs want that? They want players to have that paranoia that there's someone's going to come take their job at any moment?
Yeah, but the way they spin it is he's a player coach because he already knows the system. He's around Baker. He'll be able to coach him when the coaches can't coach him. He'll be able to relate on a different level. And it's like, and also Baker should have in the back of his mind that this guy and this guy had great success together, and he should keep that in his mind at all times. But that isn't talked about a lot. It's normally the other way, like, he's a good player coach for him. He's a good player coach for him.
Oh, yeah, and they're going to say, the good thing is if anything does happen to Baker, if he gets injured, God forbid, we don't want that to happen, we have a great backup that's already a veteran, has leadership, and knows the system very well.
Yeah, but, Coach, you don't think potentially Baker realizes that Case and Stefanski had a lot of success, and he's thinking, like, wow, they're potentially bringing in a replacement. I gotta tighten it up. That wasn't a part of your motivation of hiring Case Keenum at all, Coach?
Yeah, and you and Case have this relationship. Like, Case is your guy. You're coming here to this team, and all these people drafted me and have coached me.
Should I worry?
Cool.
No, I shouldn't worry that your ex-wife is just got hired in here right behind me. I shouldn't worry about that at all here. That seems interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll go play very hard as I can. In that Baker Mayfield, in that offense, by the way, if they continue to run the rock, play action, utilize all their weapons, maybe Baker Mayfield's around for a long, long time over there. Maybe he's their guy.
People are excited, man. In Cleveland, people are very excited. And that throw by Landry, the touchdown pass to Odell, was an unbelievably difficult throw to make, and he threw it perfectly.
By the way, crow hopping means he's selling out for this. That ball could have slipped and sailed and went 4 rows, 5 rows deep into the thing. He crow hopped in it, which is confidence, right? Massive confidence whenever you're getting through something. He threw that thing on a line, 35 yards, bang, right in the, if you're Jarvis, I guess when you call that play, you're very excited, right? There wasn't even a moment of like, I hope I make this play. For Jarvis, it was like, about fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till you see what I do here. And Odell on the flip side, by the way, Odell can do the exact same thing. Yep. They have cannons all over the field, and I feel like Stefanski's a guy that will take advantage of it, and it all revolves around that run game. What's his face? Chubb is out for a few weeks with an MCL. I believe he's been put on the IR, so it's at least 3 weeks out for him. But Kareem Hunt, they just paid him. He's going to be able to go. That team, they should be excited in Cleveland. I think I let off the show with saying Cleveland should be very excited about what they got going on.
They go get Sanu. Anybody on the field can throw the damn ball.
Sanu. Did you see Sanu got released by the Niners? And whenever we talk to a guy named Tom Curran, who's the NBC Sports Boston Patriot guy, okay, he comes on this show and he's just a hilarious human. Like he's classic Boston guy, sports guy. He just buried the Patriots at the beginning of the year and all this stuff. And we talked about Mohamed Sanu getting released during training camp or whatever. And we're like, Tom, what did you see from being at training camp? He was like, we were watching him. We were looking around. Everybody was like, that guy looks glacial out there. He's saying Mohamed Sanu looked so slow. And I was like, that's hilarious. But he goes to the Niners. Niners get rid of him as well. Will Mohamed Sanu end up on a team? I'd assume because his name carries a lot of weight. But it is weird that he's just kind of fallen off if that is what has happened here.
I haven't watched him play that much lately. I played with him my one season in Cincinnati. Mo was there, and he had a hell of a year. And I was like, man, we got AJ Green 1, AJ Green 2. Like that's a big physical dude. Like when Sanu catches the ball, he's trying to run people over. I haven't examined how quickly he can get down the field. I guess that's probably what the issue is, it sounds like.
Yeah, he's glacial.
Yeah, because when I hear the name Mohamed Sanu, I think great football. Like
Me too.
I think great football player.
Underrated football player too. He was underrated for a very long time.
Well, the Niners and the Patriots are like, no, rated exactly right.
Those are not the teams, as far as wide receivers are concerned, that you want to be known for getting cut by right now.
Yeah, because Patriots don't have any receivers and the Niners don't have any receivers, but they're saying they're getting healthier. That's why they're releasing him because they got guys coming back or whatever. So interesting dynamic over there. Let's go to Kyle in Illinois. Kyle, what's going on?
Pat, I just want to start with, Zito, bear down, obviously.
Bear down.
But, Pat, the Bears are
Hey, what happened to your victory steaks on Sunday, Paul?
I had birthday steaks, though.
Oh, okay.
Shout out.
Sorry, what's going on, Kyle?
I mean, the Bears are fucking dead. Worst 3-1.
No.
Wow.
Thursday, we're back to victory stakes, Kyle.
No, you're not.
No, they're dead.
Like, how do we expect to beat the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers while scoring 3 fucking points?
Well, Gronk sucks, so that's
Whoa.
I love this,
Well, I mean, I like how Kyle set Zito up there, like, hey, we're on the same team here. And it was like, yeah, we're dead, dude.
Worst 3-1 team in the league.
It is interesting because if I know Chuck Pagano at all, defense coordinator for the Bears, he's walking around that building talking to people because all the noise that is coming from outside that building has to be deafening. And he's like, listen, we're 3-1. You know how many teams would die to be 3-1? Like, we are 3-1. That is a real thing. In the building, that has to be the message. Like, yo, we are 3-1 right now. And we have an undefeated quarterback, and we have another quarterback that we've started instead. But we're in a situation where a lot of teams would die to be where we currently are. And everybody outside the building is like, this team looks like they are trash.
And I don't appreciate Lance Briggs calling out Chuck Pagano.
I didn't hear that. What did Lance Briggs say?
He basically called him lazy play caller and a horrible defensive coordinator.
3-1. See, there's another thing. They are 3-1 though at this point.
Amen.
And inside the building, they're going to be like, all right, we got a lot to fix, but also we got to fucking remember we are 3-1. The Jets aren't going to win 3 games this whole season. We won 3 in the first quarter.
Well, it's the recency bias, they call it. People just remember that they just lost. How about the 3 weeks before that where they were winning games? Like,
well, everybody was saying they sucked then too.
Yeah, we were calling them the worst.
Yeah, they were the worst undefeated team at one point.
And I'm not saying that they could compete with the Packers or anyone, but I think you hit it perfect. Like, hey, we're 3-1. We're all right. We haven't put ourselves too far behind. If we are terrible, let's try to squeak a few more wins out of here and get into the playoffs.
It's the same narrative about, and I'm not comparing these teams, but last year the Packers were winning games, but it was ugly wins.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have won this game, shouldn't have won this game, shouldn't have won this game. Then they end up in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, I like
and
that.
it all kind of came to a head, though.
Yeah, pretty much. Not that it really matters, but how much would it change a team's psyche if you go from going undefeated to losing 2 games in 5 days, and it's like, okay, maybe we should pump the brakes. We're not as good as we thought we were.
Are you talking about
the Bears potentially? Yeah, if they get
Colts
dog walked,
Thursday.
yeah, and then if they get dog walked by the Bucs on Thursday, which they probably will.
This is something that is very real in an NFL locker room that doesn't happen outside of it. When you lose, you have to move on to the next one. Like Aaron talked about how after one game, like we're only 1 week into this thing. In the NFL, you can't just dread or think about what you just had. Like you literally have to turn your focus to the next game. It's just what has to happen until your bye week. So I would assume the Bears, even if they lose on Thursday, like, okay, we just lost 2, but we got to get to the next one. I would assume that would be the mindset in there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, some of the players right now, they're thinking they're a good team. They're probably hoping they're a really good team, but you don't really know. But if you're on the Packers right now, you're like, yeah, we're a hell of a football team. If you're on the Seahawks, I think, yeah, our defense hasn't stopped a whole lot of people, but we're still a damn good football team. The Bears, I think, are in that weird spot where they're hoping to take the next step. They're hoping to know that they are a good team.
Dan Orlovsky's calling me right now.
Uh-oh.
Dan, we're live. What do you want to talk about?
You're what?
We're live right now.
Hey!
Yeah!
Hey, remember the conversation that you and I were having the other day about quarterbacks?
Yeah?
That clip about what Aaron said?
Yeah?
That's it.
100%. You got to be a savage to be the guy.
Dude, that is an absolute savage comment.
All right, I'll call you later. That's hilarious.
I love that guy.
It's real. We were having a conversation the other day off the record, and I always said that I thought Andrew Luck was too nice. Like, I thought he was too nice to be a guy. And by the way, he won a lot of games, and he would have been able to, I think he would have been able to win the Super Bowl. But from watching the way it was being done before Andrew got there to after Andrew got there, I was always like, man, Andrew's too good of a guy. Like, he's too good of a guy. He has to be able to look at somebody and say, hey, you got to do your fucking job better or you don't deserve it. Like, that has to happen at the quarterback position. I was asking Dan, I was like, do you think that's true? Because Dan's been in a lot of quarterback rooms, and he's been a lot, and he was like, yeah, you have to have kind of a savage in you or whatever. You know, I think you kind of have to do that. Not saying that Andrew didn't have it in a different fashion, but I'm just saying from watching him, I was like, I think he's too nice of a guy. Like, when people would kill him, like, hey, nice hit. It's like, I don't know if that's the right attitude to have. And then this quote comes out, and Orlovsky's like, yeah, by the way, there's a savage right there. Like, that is 100% true. That's why I love the quote so much whenever he said it earlier.
Well, and he's had that forever. Like, when that guy asked him that hypothetical question, what would you do if you didn't play football? He's like, well, no, I absolutely knew from a young age that I was going to be great at football. Like, that's the mindset, especially to be an NFL quarterback, the toughest position in all of pro sports. all the great ones seem to have some form of that kind of attitude to where they know, like, hey, no, I'm the best player on the field. Like, they have to truly believe that. They don't think that, like, no, yeah, hey, if I'm slinging it, we're going to win no matter what.
Hey,
That's how they have to be.
Hey, I'm the guy. Just a little heads up. Yeah, I'm the guy. So you don't like
and in their own mind, think about it, Pat. A guy like Aaron, these studs around the league, they wouldn't say it, but in their mind, I'm sure they're like, if I'm not here, this team's garbage.
Yep.
Never would say it publicly. Can't say that. That's
I wouldn't even say garbage. I'd say without me, this team obviously looks nowhere near what it does with me.
You know, that makes me think about Carson Wentz whenever that Nick Foles run happened. Like, I wonder what Carson Wentz was feeling that whole entire time, because that's like, okay, Nick Foles goes and calls his own play. He has a statue up in the seat. I mean, maybe that's a part of Carson Wentz as well. Like, maybe he just doesn't. Who knows? Let's go to Avery in Toronto. Hey, up there in Canada.
Oh,
hey,
how you
great to
doing
hear
there?
from you, Avery. How you doing there? Hey.
Hey, boys, loving the energy today.
Oh, thanks, there, pal. We had some vitamins there earlier, didn't we, there? Kind of smacked us in the face there, eh? Hey, didn't we, there?
So I got a quick question. Well, staying leading to a question. As the logical Falcons fan, one, we're fucking dead. Two, we need a new quarterback. So I'm thinking we keep Dan Quinn, which is going to happen. Maybe get the enemy from the Chiefs, draft Trey Lance-ish, and then just Matty Ice is a ghetto gas station right now. He ain't got no ice left.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, I get it, because he's talking about ice bags.
Gas stations. Yeah.
That was and I think being from Toronto and choosing to be a Falcons fan is also maybe a big question.
It's kind of on you, pal.
Probably a pretty big question. But he's saying Dan Quinn's the problem. And I would say a lot of people agree with that. But I don't know if a new coach comes in there, Bieniemy, for instance, and says, yeah, let's build around Matt Ryan. Like, I just don't. I think that's a complete rebuild, rehaul, everything down there in Atlanta. And that's a shame, because just a couple years ago, they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl.
It's hard to win football games in today's NFL when your quarterback has a fucking noodle arm.
And he can't move.
Right.
Guys got to be able to move. Like, I think nowadays, with the way the NFL is now, guys got to be able to run. You have to be able to run, because D linemen are faster, okay? So you're getting people on you faster. The offense is more spread out, so the offensive line doesn't have as much of an advantage as it may be used to, because you're taking on these freak athletes who back in the day might have been a linebacker or even a safety, but now they're defensive linemen. So your quarterback has to be able to extend plays, has to be able to move, whatever fashion, whether it's Big Ben Roethlisberger style, where you're just sitting there and eat it and you can just stay up, or Aaron Rodgers, who's been moving out of the pocket for a long time, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, you name it, Russell Wilson, all that stuff. You have to be able to move. I think that whole I can only be a pocket passer thing dies after Tom Brady retires.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of those guys left. And you're right. Like when Aaron even said on the show, I think when he first got in the league, there wasn't like Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson type quarterbacks. They hadn't really broken into the NFL game. I mean, there was guys, but there wasn't as many. And Aaron came in, he can move from day one. But the best part is he usually doesn't have to move. He can rely on his arm, but when it's there, when he needs to, bam, oh, 3rd and 11, here we go. I'm going to go through 4 progressions, and then I'm going to pull it down, and I'm going to get 12 yards and then give you the belt.
And also, what Aaron Rodgers is going to do is he's going to wait for Creed to play a goddamn song down there in Jerry World, and I'm going to come out here and I'm going to dominate, and I'm going to be the starter and change the entire narrative about Aaron Rodgers as a professional football player. What were you about to say, Diggs?
I was counting the quarterbacks that can't move anymore. I think it's just Brady and Rivers.
Yeah, it's funny.
And
too.
Ryan.
Foles.
And Ryan.
Foles can move a little bit.
And he's not really.
Philly,
he's
dude.
not like a starting quarterback.
Have a little respect, dude. Let's go to Drew and what's that? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go to Drew.
Oh, and Goff a little bit.
Oh, you don't think Goff can move?
Well, at least they can throw.
Goff. I didn't even hear the name. Did you guys?
No, it was me.
Oh, I thought you said he said it.
Oh, it was a story I wanted to bring up about General Bob and Aaron. So Aaron talked about that Thursday night game where he came in and kind of silenced any doubters that thought he was going to be a bust or whatever. He did play very, very well. Favre got hurt. Aaron steps in, a great Cowboys team. I believe we got beat still. Well, Bobby was on that team, General Bob, who brought Big Ten football back.
Obviously.
Brought football
Aaron
back.
goes out he went out for early warm-ups in the old Cowboys stadium. Goes out for early warm-ups. I was sitting there getting ready. He comes back in after early warm-ups. He's like, bro, have you been out there? I'm like, no. Why? He goes, have you seen Bobby's mustache? I was like, what? No, I don't know. And then I go out there when I finally got to warm-ups. I think Bob had not a handlebar. He had a giant mustache, spreading across his whole face almost, and Aaron was so juiced about it pregame.
So Creed and General Bob Carpenter brought Aaron Rodgers into the NFL world. I can respect and appreciate both of those things coming together for some magic. And by the way, if you get Creed and General Bob Carpenter in the same room, might fucking cure everything. Maybe COVID.
Jesus Christ, might walk in the room
Maybe
next.
COVID. At the very least, you're getting a new gold album.
Let's go to CJ in Denver. CJ, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I want to talk. I'm a lifelong Colts fan. I want to talk a little bit about the Colts. I love the way Chris Ballard is building the team through the draft. His first 2 picks in Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson are all pros. I love Rodrigo Blankenship going 4 for 4, kicking field goals on Sunday. And I'm curious what you think about the Colts position groups that could use the most improvement, either through the draft or through free agents.
Rigoberto Sanchez also balling, probably the best punter in the league right now. Tommy Townsend broke some record last night, 4 punts, average over 60 yards. I think it's one of the first times that's ever happened.
Damn.
I think he had 2 touchbacks during that, so I think punters will probably not have as much respect for it, but he was bombing the football, and it was great for a rookie to see, especially because he was coming in for Dustin Colquitt. But the Indianapolis Colts were the most complete team I think a lot of people thought. I mean, the story is that Tom Brady wanted to go there because of how complete the team was, and he knew that he could compete immediately. Defense was great. Offense was good. Couple injuries obviously held them back. Special teams was good. Vinatieri obviously last year didn't have his best year because he had to do surgery, but the team was the most full team. And for a quarterback, the offensive line was the best that they could be. So for me, I think the Indianapolis Colts are in a good spot. I think they're in a great spot. I think Phillip Rivers, even though he blew us off today, he was supposed to be on the show, I think he is kind of finding his role in the offense as well. It's just whether or not they'll be able to take that next step and make a run. I think with the Houston Texans having a massive question mark in their building, that's going to be tough to win the division. The Tennessee Titans, they have a COVID outbreak, so I think you can kind of forget about them. But right now it's the Colts and the Titans to figure out who can get in the playoffs. And if they get in the playoffs with that offensive line being able to run the ball with the stable of backs that they have, this Colts team is a legit threat in the AFC, but the AFC is going to be a tough place to play football whenever it comes January, February.
Oh, no doubt. I think their defense is playing well. I love how they run around and they fly, man. It's fun. And Jonathan Taylor, I feel like he's under the radar too, how good he has been stepping in and kind of being the full-time back now. He is an absolute stud. Another great draft pick by Ballard.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, he's no longer building the team. This team is built now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is the team that Ballard built. Now, plug-and-place quarterback Jacoby Brissett last year, they gave him a 2-year, $50 million deal. Now, Phillip Rivers gets a 2-year, $50 million deal. I think that was the position that they were like, do we have a guy? Jacoby was trending to be that guy. Then he got hurt and became a different player. And to Jacoby's credit, he's been awesome this year for the Colts and everything, the way he's been handling it. And Phillip Rivers started out cold, threw ball into a couple of defensive meeting rooms. Joe Dirt picked him off to steal the fate of the Colts against the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 1, but I think he's getting better. It's just whether or not they can go in January. Can you go in January or not? That's what everybody's going to wonder, and we will see. I mean, we will see. The position group that they need help in, I guess wide receiver is always going to be one that you can get another weapon especially if you have a great run team, which the Colts do. Play action, you can take advantage of that. T.Y. Hilton's having his back, it feels like. He went up and got a ball. Tight ends, Mo Alley Cox looks like he's the number 1. So I'm not 100% sure, to be completely candid. It feels like they're a very complete squad right now.
Yeah, they seem pretty good. Maybe I know they got DeForest Buckner was huge for that D-line. Maybe another outside rusher at some point.
Yeah, they got Houston on the one side. I guess you get somebody else on the other. I mean, that could be good. I don't know. They feel like
everybody could use talented players. You never have too much talent.
Bingo. Hey, bingo. They were not in the Jadeveon Clowney sweepstakes at all, though, by the way. They didn't even think about that. They were like, nah.
Interesting.
Fuck them. I don't know if they said that. But Drew in South Carolina, last call before this show wraps up. What do you want to talk about?
First of all, Pat, I love your damn show.
Thank you.
First of all.
Thanks.
Love you and AJ. Love the boys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're fucked without Cam Newton.
What's
That's first of all.
Yeah, that's true.
What did he say?
They're fucked without Cam Newton, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, bad spot. If you're a Patriots fan.
But my question today is
probably dead.
For you and AJ is during the season, of course, when you guys are playing, how serious do you take your diet?
I didn't at all, Drew. I mean, I didn't at all. Towards the end of my career, when I was at my best, I did. I tried not to be as fat. I tried to be a little bit fit. But there was a lot of conversations I've had in hindsight that said I probably should take care of my body while I was in the NFL. I assume AJ. I didn't want to fix what wasn't broke. You know, I got in the NFL eating like shit. I could stay in the NFL eating like shit. It just, for me, I saw everybody around me dieting and nutritioning and doing the right things and all that. And I just always told them, like, yeah, it's not for me. And then here we are looking back, and probably would have been a lot better earlier if I started taking care of myself, because later I started taking care of myself, and boy, I was much better than I was when I was younger. So maybe it's just knowledge and learning the position I was drafted to do, but also probably because I took care of my body a little bit. How about you, AJ? I feel like you're a pretty fit man, pretty fit guy. Love the workout and all that shit.
Yeah, luckily I always enjoyed working out. But yeah, I started eating decently healthy like towards the end of high school, and so just carried it on through my life. That's just what I do. But I think people would be surprised at how terrible a lot of professional athletes eat. Like just garbage. McDonald's in the morning, just huge, just nasty plates of garbage in the afternoon, and then at nighttime get 50 wings. That's the diet of a decent amount of NFL players.
Well, I don't know if it is now, right? Because they started changing the nutritionists and everything, but in the buildings at least.
They have them in the building. Yeah, maybe one meal a day is really healthy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about outside the buildings. You got a lot of people pulling the trigger on a lot of food that is not desirable if you're a nutritionist.
They're freaks, though. That's the thing, though. Professional athletes a lot of them are genetic freaks, and that's what's got them there. They continue to do that while they're playing. It does help with longevity if nutrition plays a role, I think, for everybody.
Say it again, AJ. Say it again.
They're freak athletes.
That's right. You're looking at one right now, bub. Looking at that. Freak athlete, dude.
Beauty.
I just got a cramp in my quad.
Wow.
And there is the mustache on General Bob Carpenter. That man brought football back. Don't you ever let it forget it. All right, Tuesday, October 6th, Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. The studio at my house is finishing
this weekend.
I think it's this week, I believe.
So, we were waiting for one last piece, and it was next door to the old apartment building. So
here we go.
Package stolen.
So I have a studio at my house now, AJ. Do you know this?
Is that on top of that and the man cave? You have all of it, or what?
That's the room. So that room has now been plugged in with DirecTV. We had to build fiber. We had to dig fiber to the house because where I live, I guess fiber internet is not available. So we have to dig fiber to the house. Then we had to hook everything. Zito and Tim McAfee production up there. I mean, it's been a real thing. But I want to go live at night. You know what I mean? I want to do stuff. I want to be able to watch things. I want to be able to do that, especially for our McAfee Mafia members, boss man.
That's all. That like. The room looked awesome. How many TVs do you have in there?
There's 7 TVs in there. Well, there's 6 TVs, 1 projector.
Sick projector.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool.
Do you hire somebody that strictly just works the remote and make sure that each TV has a different game on?
I can do that, AJ.
Jeez.
And I want to let you know the reason why I'm doing this, this stream at the house thing, it's because I would like to let everybody know that I'm not a fucking buffoon, okay?
Amen.
I can run a camera if I have to. I can cut a camera if I have to.
Yep.
All these people on the internet, they're like, well, yeah. By the way, there's some people I've cut completely out of my life because they've given me no credit for anything that I've done. And there's people that are like, oh, well, if it wasn't for this or this or this. A lot of excuses coming out of other streamers and things like that. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I mean, granted, I have 7 TVs now, which is quite an advantage and that type of stuff. And we were able to build a fiber internet from a highway a mile and a half away to my house, which was pretty costly. But yeah, the camera cutting, in the controller doing. I couldn't have set it up. I mean, needed Zito and Tim to do that, but now that we're set up, I can operate now. I can operate over here.
It's like
I never doubted you. I knew you could.
Felt like you doubted.
Ask Zito. I bug Zito and all the boys with questions all the time, tech questions, and I can't retain any of it, unfortunately.
Well, I'll tell you what, Zito is a weapon when it comes to that stuff. He knows stuff that he's not supposed to know.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a beautiful mind over here.
Yeah.
And he woke up in the middle of the night the other night because we couldn't figure out how to get sound from the projector. He woke up in the middle of the night like 2 a.m.
sweating.
And I got a text from him that was like, I think I plugged the wrong thing into the wrong thing. We'll get that figured out tomorrow or whatever. I'm like, all right, Zito. I have faith in you, bud.
Genius.
I have 100% faith in you. I think I might get into video games up there too.
Ooh.
I might do a little. I've never played before, but I think my baptism into the video game world alongside my wife could be entertaining content because she is
on Twitch?
No, on YouTube. I'm a YouTube guy. I'm not a Twitch guy.
Too, baby.
Yeah, we're at 1 million subscribers here. I'm never going to get there on Twitch, so I'm not fucking starting over. Yeah, we're here. We're here now. You know what I mean? We're here now.
Good for you.
Yeah. You know, my lady will probably beat me in a lot of those things.
What game?
No, she does do that type of stuff.
You'll figure it out, though.
No, I never have. I'm 33, and I haven't been able to figure out.
You can take her out in Mario Tennis.
Mario Kart, I'll probably get her.
Mario Kart, yeah.
Wii tennis. Wii bowling.
Wii bowling.
Yeah, I got to make sure it's set up for success because she will get loud whenever it gets very loud in the house whenever she beats me at things.
She just plugged it in right now. She's practicing.
She's listening right now. She's like, oh, we only have this game or this game. And she's been playing all fucking day for probably the last. I know it's going to happen. But yeah, that's going to happen. So we appreciate the McAfee Mafia members. You can become a member right here on the YouTube somewhere. It also allows you to have a 25% off discount code at our store. And by the way, our store is cooking right now.
Oh, yeah.
We might be out of some stuff, but we'll get them restocked. We appreciate you all so much. From AJ Hawk, myself, and all the boys, this has been Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, October 6th, 2000. Oh, wait, Zito, what's the poll?
Ooh, poll today. Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I do know. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Should NFL teams forfeit if they have a COVID outbreak in the locker room? Yup, at 37.8%. Nope, at 62.2%. 21,000 votes. I'm happy the internet has a little bit of reason in there. That's very nice of them. What's up, Connor?
There was a winner for Pat. I think the score will be.
Oh, yes. Here we go. Pat, I think the score will be was a little giveaway that I did during the Niners-Eagles game. We were trending at number 2 in the United States. I can't thank people enough. And also, Twitter described the competition in the sports icons world.
Hey, now.
No big deal. We found our winner. This is how we found the winner. Hashtag Pat, I think the score will be. The final score was 25-20. 25-20. And these are all the people that got the answer right. But the first person that got it right was this man right here. His name is
Darvin Blixt.
Congratulations. You won $500 on the hashtag Pat. I think the score will be. You got it exactly right. Niners Eagles for the first before anybody else. Congrats on $500. We're sending that via Venmo. We'll be doing that a lot more. We're also giving away $100,000. We'll release a video on how you could potentially win that. From all of us to all of you, you're the greatest. Cheers. Have a good day.
Yeah.